Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join us as we're here to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and the Dark Crystal and Rambo and all sorts of good stuff that's been coming out now. And joining me to talk about all this good stuff is one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, old franchise is coming back to life. It's kind of exciting. Franchises I always liked.
Like Dark Crystal, like Rambo, so on and so forth. Listen, guys, as we get into our stuff today, just want to remind you all that if you're here to listen to a bunch of people just saying things you already agree with, you're in the wrong show. Our job here is not to say things that you already agree with. What fun is there in that in being movie fans? And our job is not to convince you to agree with us either. Our job is to give you our opinions on all these things in a way that hopefully helps you sharpen what you already think or what you come to believe, whether that's something you agree with us or disagree with us about. And that's the most fun thing about being a film fan. So if you're here for that, come on along, buckle in, and enjoy the ride. And listen, guys, we got a whole bunch of stuff we got to talk about here. And we're going to start things off with this. You guys know that I've been flipping my lid, waiting for this brand new Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, I believe it's called. Age of Resistance. I am a massive Dark Crystal fan. I've always loved the Dark Crystal. I've been waiting patiently for this. They tried to get another Dark Crystal thing going before. That kind of fell apart. Here it is. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? August 30th, it's coming. And ladies and gentlemen, the first trailer for the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance has dropped. And I'm going to tell you what. I have to be careful here because I've just been so excited. I'm sure that's coloring my opinion of this a little bit, so I'm going to admit that right up front. I freaking loved it. It feels like the Dark Crystal. It looks like the Dark Crystal. They've clearly implemented a little bit more newer technology in there, but for 90% of it, it's puppets, it's original designs, it's just beautiful seeing the Skeksis again, seeing the Gelflings, seeing the crystal. I was eating this thing up. I absolutely loved it, and they gave us a release date. I don't know if they gave us a release date before, but anyway, August 30th, the new series hits Netflix, and I am absolutely beside myself. Rob, you just watched the trailer with me. Your thoughts on the Dark Crystal trailer?
I was blown away. I mean, the direction, the way the camera moves around these puppets. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of CG augmentation, and there's a lot of, I mean, there's these wide vista shots. And
yeah.
I mean, you know, in the trailer, they pull the Dark Crystal down into the earth. I mean, there's so much in this trailer to love. I'm astonished by how it looks. I know a few people writing on it, but I had no sense of what was the show going to be like. Well, it looks epic to me. And wow, I mean, kudos to Netflix for bringing back something I never thought I'd see come back. But John, like you, I'm hella excited for this one.
I kind of mentioned it and alluded to it already. No detail was left unattended to. The Skeksis look like the Skeksis.
Yeah.
They sound like the Skeksis. The Gelflings look like Gelflings. The Chamber looks like even the Striders.
The Mystics.
The Striders, like everything about the only thing I was hoping to see that I didn't see was those armored crab things.
Right.
But I'm sure we'll hear that click, 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 click. I'm sure we'll get that in the series at some point. I'm just beside myself. Now, granted, it's a first little teaser. It's a first look, but
it's epic, though. They showed us. I thought the trailer was going to be over, and then it got bigger, and then it got bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, they showed a lot in this trailer. It's got scope. It's got vision. I mean, it looks epic to me, and I can't wait for this.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about it. Did you guys have a chance to see this first Dark trailer, Crystal? If so, jump down in the comments section. Let us know what you think, because I absolutely loved it. Or jump on Twitter and let us know what you think, because I forgot to mention, guys, as we're going throughout the show, if you have an opinion or a thought about one of the topics that we talk about here on the show today, why don't you share it with everybody? Jump on Twitter and just send out your comment using the hashtag TJC Show. That's use the hashtag TJC Show. Don't ask a question in it. Just if you have an opinion on one of the topics we talk about, send it on out. And then a little bit later in the show, I'm going to pull up some of my favorite responses that you guys send out. Okay, with that down, let's move on to the next thing we need to talk about. Rob, there is another trailer that dropped this morning. Another one we've been very curious about, and of course, we've got Sylvester Stallone coming back in one of the roles that is one of his most iconic in the form of Rambo. Of course, the first Rambo film was called First Blood. Very, very different film from all the other Rambo films. And now we're coming into Last Blood, and they finally dropped the trailer for Last Blood this morning. And I'll tell you what, I liked it.
I did too.
I mean, am I as excited about it as I am about the Dark Crystal one? No, probably not. But it just from the narration of it, and if it comes looking for me, they're seeking death or something like it was all the grimness of a John J. Rambo. And I got to tell you, I liked it. And, you know, I mentioned to you earlier, it very much, you can tell there was Logan had an influence on this film from the visual style, kind of a little bit feel, and I don't say that in a bad way, but I mean that positively. You can kind of feel a Logan influence on it and all that kind of stuff. I liked what we saw in this trailer. Rob, what did you think about it?
I did too. You know, it's funny that you brought these both off the top, because if memory serves, both First Blood and The Dark Crystal came out in 1982.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
So isn't it crazy that we're getting back these two? I mean, look, we've had more Rambo movies, obviously, but to have these franchises still here, you know, after all this time and looking great. I mean, Rambo looks like he kills a lot of dudes and that need killing, and I'm all about it. It's against he's after the Mexican cartels, but it looks like there was some favelas that looked like it was Brazil, but maybe it's not. I mean, I don't know. I'm really excited to see it. I mean, you know what? I like the last Rambo movie. It was so bloody and torsos exploding everywhere. And I mean, it was, even though they've made the movies say smaller scale since Rambo and Rambo 3, they're still, the Rambo 4 has delivered. And I think as long as people die horribly at the hands of John Rambo, I'm going to be wildly entertained by this movie. And that's what movies are all about.
Did you bring guns? No? Then you ain't changing nothing. Tell me what you think about this. One of the things that I'm picking up in the trailer is that we read an early synopsis, and who knows what those are accurate, but in the early synopsis that came out, it's like, apparently Rambo's working for a nice lady, and I guess her granddaughter goes missing, and he goes down to Mexico to look for her. I'm getting the feeling that story doesn't have a happy ending. Like, I'm watching this trailer, and I'm getting the feeling, I think whatever girl he went looking for probably ended up dead.
Oh,
I mean, that's what I got the feeling is. I think there's one line in the thing where he goes, "I want revenge." It's like, whoa.
Oh yeah, she was trafficked or whatever. It's not going to end well. I mean, you know, there's a grimness to the it's funny because even First Blood, the first Blood, and a quick story. When I saw First Blood the first time, I was at an exhibitor screening and they forgot to send the last reel.
No.
So I swear to God, I'm watching First Blood and we're all...
Trust us, the ending's great.
I was in Seattle and it was all exhibitors that had to bid on the movie and we're all like riveted by this film. No last reel. And the projectionist comes out and goes, I'm sorry. And everybody was like, exhibitors are always, they never get involved emotionally. Everybody was involved. Like, what? You know, and so I've had to go back and I had to see First Blood. I love the Rambo movies. You know, I really do, and I think it's not going to end well for pretty much anyone in this movie.
No, I don't know why. I just thought about it. I love Brian Dennehy in the first Blood. He was so good in that. So anyway, guys,
David Caruso's in the first Rambo, or First Blood, in the First Blood, Rambo 1, whatever you want to call it, First Blood.
Well, listen, guys, have you had a chance to watch this brand new Rambo Last Blood trailer? Did you like it? Again, I think I like the Dark Crystal one a little bit more, but I really did dig this trailer as a first look. What did you think about it? Jump on down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, next thing off the top here. This also just came out this morning. You know, Rob, they recently released the first trailer for Terminator Dark Fate. Now, there was a lot of buzz coming out of CinemaCon because they showed extended stuff at CinemaCon. Everybody at CinemaCon loved it. They released a much pared down kind of version of what they showed at CinemaCon in a trailer form. Had some mixed reactions. Some people thought it looked pretty good. Some people not so taken with it right now. We'll see how that evolves as new trailers and things like that come out. But one of the things that was very noticeable by their absence was any character or mention of John Connor. And a lot of people were writing into this show as well, like when that trailer dropped, saying, so what's going on with John Connor? Isn't he like the central figure? And I said, well, I mean, not every character has to be central in every figure. Who knows, blah, blah, blah. But apparently, he is going to be a part of this movie, at least sort of. James Cameron was recently interviewed about this whole thing, and this is what James Cameron had to say about it. I think the best way to think about Terminator Dark Fate is to think about it as a direct sequel to Terminator 2. That we already knew. The third film in a series, if you will. We will be continuing John's story with Sarah's story and the T-800 returns. So that answers another question about, okay, is that Arnold we see in the trailer a guy? Or is that another Terminator model? Apparently it's a T-800. A different T-800 with a very different role to play than what we've seen before. I think tonally what makes this a direct sequel to T1 and T2 is as much about the tone as it is about the narrative. It's R-rated, so that's another piece of information that's come out. It's going to be an R-rated thing, which we suspected. It's grim, it's gritty, it's fast, it's intense, it's very linear. The whole story takes place in 36 hours. It's not this kind of grandiose, complex story. It's just very focused on the characters. It's very now, it's very present, and it's just a fast-paced, white-knuckle ride. So here we go. That's James Cameron talking about a film that he did not direct, by the way. Let's keep that in mind. But he is saying, a couple things come out in this, Rob. He's saying, number one, the John story does continue. It's like, okay, great. So they're hiding something in these trailers from us. If it's part of John's story, why not have John Connor? The other thing he is confirming it's going to be R-rated, and then, of course, speaks very highly about the film, although he spoke very highly of Terminator Genesis as well, another film he didn't, unfortunately, direct. But anyway, Rob, you hear these comments from James Cameron. What do you think? Are you surprised to hear that John Connor's still going to be in this? What do you think about these comments?
No, I mean, I think, look, that question obviously hangs over the whole enterprise if it's a sequel to both Terminator and Terminator 2.
Yeah.
John Connor, where is he? What's he doing? So it's good to hear that. And I don't know if they're going to bring back Edward Furlong. Who knows?
I haven't heard anything about that.
I haven't either. I mean, unless it's some kind of a secret, or maybe John Connor's story is that he's dead. You know, and
that changed the future.
Yeah, it would change the future. I mean, I don't know. I'm excited. Look, I'm excited when anybody. You know what? I have to say, I thought Alita Battle Angel was much better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, I agree.
When I saw it, and I don't think it got the due that it deserves. I mean, I think we live in this world now where everybody expects every movie to come out to change their lives.
Yes.
And when you get a really great, really beautifully made film that delivers what it was supposed to deliver, like Alita, incredible technology on display, and James Cameron was obviously involved in that, and a long-time passion project of his. I think it's going to be great to see him and Tim Miller. I mean, Tim Miller is a James Cameron fanboy. I've met Tim Miller. That guy, I mean, you just look at him. At CinemaCon, he came out and he was like crying on stage. He was so excited. And I'm rooting for these guys, man. I mean, I want to see some Terminator action. I mean, 3 movies. I'm interested in all 3 of these things we've talked about. Dark Crystal, Rambo, and Terminator. What's not to love? Old, venerable franchises coming back and kicking ass.
Yeah, and again, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with the John thing. And you mentioned Tim Miller. A lot of guys keep saying that's the director of the first Deadpool movie. So we know he's going to bring something to the table.
Yeah.
How it's all going to come together, we're going to have to wait and see. What do you guys make of these James Cameron comments? Does it pique your interest going, wait a minute, so John Connor's story is a part of this? Okay, so what are they hiding? Or do you think that maybe like Rob is saying that he's just being a little bit aloof saying that, and he's not really playing a part in the movie? Maybe he died, but then again, who sent back the Terminator to save his mom in the first place? And it becomes an awful mess, as time travel stories often do. What do you think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, let's move on to our next topic here. And the next thing up is this. There's a little movie coming out called Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Now, Rob had a chance to see this movie a couple weeks ago. The trailers ever since Comic-Con last summer have been outstanding, and I've been very, very excited to see the movie. I went to go see, Rob, last night, I went to go see Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and I got to tell you what, I don't think I liked the film. I don't think I liked it. Let me start with the positive things here. Godzilla looks awesome. King Ghidorah looks awesome. The monsters look great. And what little screen time is actually spent on the monsters, I ate up every second. The fights that we see from the trailers, like there's obviously Ghidorah and Godzilla have multiple fights in the film. We saw them both in trailers. Once out on that ice field, once in the middle of a city. The fights are great. I ate up every second of that. Unfortunately, the vast majority of this Godzilla film, and again, I can only speak for myself, the vast, vast majority of this Godzilla film stays focused on the human characters. And the vast, vast amount of this 2-hour movie, the cameras are pointed on human characters. And I think it's safe to say, while not the worst thing in the world, I hated almost everything in this movie involving the human characters. And that was about 80% of the movie. And I mentioned in a tweet last night, and you think I'm joking, but I'm not. There's a scene where one of the villains is explaining, they're talking to our heroes, and they're explaining the evil plot, and they just so happen to have an audio-visual presentation ready as they're explaining the evil plot. And this is going to happen. Bring up visuals of it. And what about this thing? And they bring up visuals. And I'm sitting there in my chair, Rob, and I'm like, I was embarrassed for them. It was one of the worst things I've seen in a while. It's like, are they really? This sounds like a joke a comedian would make about bad filmmakers, and they were doing it. And I'm like, and everybody in the theater was laughing at it when they brought up. Now that's just one thing. I found none of the characters believable. I didn't buy 1 second any of the motivations. It was just awful. And this is a movie to me, this is a movie that has a dichotomy to it. There is the majority of the movie, which is just poor, that focuses on all the human stuff. Everything that had to do with Godzilla and Ghidorah and Rodan, and when the monsters are actually on screen doing stuff, loved it. So I kind of had a little bit of a bipolar experience where I'm going back and forth between like, okay, well, I love this. That was a great 5 minutes. And now we go back to 25 minutes of this stupid stuff. And then another 5 or 6 minutes of something great. And then another 20. And I wanted to love this movie. I've loved the trailers. I've loved the marketing. But to me, I feel like this Godzilla movie, while not as bad, I liken this Godzilla movie to one of the Transformers films. Some great visual action when there was some stuff going on, but everything that was supposed to make this a movie, to me, kind of failed, unfortunately. Is it the worst movie I've seen this year? No. Is there nothing to enjoy in this movie? Not at all. There's definitely some upside to this movie. But I'd be less than honest with you guys if I didn't tell you I walked out pretty disappointed. But there are some people who are really loving this movie, so keep that in mind, including a guy sitting in this room with me who has seen this movie, who has loved this movie, as maybe you will too. Rob, your experience was very different than mine, unfortunately. You know, you and I agree on a lot of movies, but this is the one that we're going to disagree on.
I adored this movie. As somebody who's watched all 3 of the Godzilla continuities and grew up with Japanese science fiction, this movie is such a loving homage to all Japanese science fiction. I thought the human character stuff was exactly what it should be. I mean, there's a moment in this movie, if you're a Mothra fan, it's subtle, but one of the characters says, "I'm 3rd generation monarch," and it's because she's, well, if you know your Mothra lore, she's a character that. Anyway, I love this movie. I thought there was a really interesting villain turn in this movie. I thought was really interesting. There's even Charles Dance plays a Hans Gruber-esque Die Hard-like villain, which I wasn't expecting. I love Kyle Chandler. I thought the film was a hoot from beginning to end, and it was watching a truly, you know, in America they've tried to make, with Godzilla 1998, with Roland Emmerich's Godzilla, and with Godzilla 2014, they've tried to take away the whimsy from Godzilla movies. I mean, there's even an homage to the Super X in this with their flying machine. I loved everything about it. And if you don't like Boston baseball, you'll particularly enjoy this movie.
Without giving anything.
I there was so much about this. I thought this movie was delightful from beginning to end. It made me feel like I was 8 years old again. Like I said on my Twitter account when I first saw this movie, I felt like my 8-year-old inner child just snorted a Tony Montana mountain size of cocaine. That's what it was like to watch this movie. My inner child was high on blow the entire time, and I loved every minute of it.
So, I mean, there you go, guys. 2 differing opinions. There are going to be people out there who love it. It should be noted, when we were talking about Godzilla yesterday, we said that the reviews that come in lower than expected was sitting at 55%. It's dropped another 12%. It's now sitting at 43%, which is still roughly split. I mean, it's a little less than the majority, but still roughly split. And you know, on this show, Rob and I represent the 2 different points of view on that. Rob adored this film. He says there's a lot of fun. I think there are moments of fun, but I think the bad stuff, unfortunately, for the overall experience, it felt more like a Transformers movie to me. And Rob and I were talking about this before we started the show. Yesterday, we were comparing Godzilla to Pacific Rim.
Right.
And Rob and I both love Pacific Rim, but we both really dislike Pacific Rim 2. So I said to Rob, but is it more like Pacific Rim 1 or is it Pacific Rim 2? And that's a good way to kind of illustrate our division here. I think Godzilla is more Pacific Rim 2. Rob thinks it's very much more Pacific Rim 1. So you guys, if you're interested in this movie, you go out and see it, and then you let us know what you guys think about it. I think this is going to be a very divisive movie. But hey, divisive is better than everybody hating it. So go on out, see it, and let us know what you think about Godzilla, King of the Monsters. All right, we've got one last thing because a lot of stuff was dropping this morning. We got one last thing to talk about off the top here. And that one last thing we're going to talk about is this. We know Toy Story 4 is coming out. We know it's going to be big and it's going to be huge. We talked the other day about the opening weekend projections for it. They're saying right now it's going to aiming for about $130 million. Some people saying is that going to be a disappointing considering Incredibles 2 had like 180 plus million. We talked about all that. Fandango, which is kind of the king of the advanced ticket sales companies out there right now. They sent out a press release this morning to me that basically laid out this. Yesterday, or it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, that the Toy Story 4 tickets went on sale. And according to the reports now from Fandango, Toy Story has broken the record for the all-time number one first-day ticket sales of any animated film in history, including Incredibles 2. Here's what Fandango had to say in their press release. They said this: Disney Pixar's Toy Story 4, opening in theaters on June 21st, is the new record holder for best first day pre-sales for an animated title on Fandango, outselling last year's Incredibles 2, the previous record holder. Tickets went on sale on Fandango on Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and within the first 24 hours, advanced ticket sales for the film outpaced other major pre-sellers, such as Pixar's Incredibles 2, Finding Dory, as well as live-action films like Beauty and the Beast and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Rob, on the one hand, this is incredibly great news for Toy Story 4. It's incredibly great news for fans of animated films. It's incredibly great news for people who've been looking forward to this new installment of the movie. I'm sure the people at Pixar are very, very, very happy. And it's good. I'm not going to try to paint this as any sort of a negative thing. This is a positive, good thing. But what some people may look at this and go, well, wait a minute. Like, they just said the projections are 130. Incredibles 2 opened with like 182. How is the pre-sales bigger for Toy Story? Here's how. It's what we have been talking about for quite a long time. Exponentially, over the past number of years, the number of people getting on board with buying tickets in advance online has been swelling exponentially. It hasn't been a small amount of growth. It's like twice the amount of people today buy their tickets in advance online than they did just a year ago. And probably 6 months from now, double the amount of people who buy tickets online now, that number's probably going to double. So I don't think there's any inconsistency with Toy Story breaking Incredibles' record, yet projecting to have a slightly smaller opening weekend than Incredibles because more people buy their tickets in advance now. I remember, Rob, Ann and I, we walked down to the AMC Burbank 16, which is our local theater here. We go to it all the time. And, you know, even just a year ago, we would show up for movies, and we always buy our tickets in advance online, but showing up for movies, and they have a very busy box office lines out front. Big, long lines of people there to buy their tickets. We walked down last week to go see a movie, and the theater was full, but instead of 70 people in line at the box office, there was like 8 or 9 people in line at the box office because more and more people. So while this is great that Toy Story set this record, it's not really a big deal to me because of the fact that this just is a reflection not of Toy Story's overwhelming popularity. It's more a reflection of the fact that more and more people buy their tickets online, which is something we talk about quite often. But Rob, it's not a bad thing. You'll see this thing. You see this news that it just broke the Incredibles record. How much significance is there in this? A whole ton, a little bit, none at all? How do you see it?
Well, I think what you were just saying, it's very significant because the way we perceive our culture as perceiving movies now is shifting. You know, we talk about how Booksmart, this movie that was very well reviewed, everyone I've talked to loved it, didn't do that well at the box office. Well, what people are expecting, I think, from the movie-going experience now, en masse, is a spectacle. is an event. It's turned into, in a way, going to a rock concert. You know, you'd pre-buy tickets for a rock concert unless you had to go to a scalper. But in this case, movies are becoming these cultural events, and people are talking about them. The lead up to movies, as online punditry like what we're doing now has grown, there's a lot more anticipation. People know these movies are coming out months in advance. They're looking for when these electronic advanced ticket sales happen. They're getting online, I'm going to get my ticket. They know. And when they get their ticket, they're part of a club. It becomes a thing that people can talk about. There's now anticipation, and you lead up to seeing the film. And when you go on a Thursday night or on Friday opening day with your or opening weekend with your family, it's great. And it's how movies are watched now. And like you've always been saying, since I've been doing the show with you, you've talked about how electronic ticket sales are becoming more and more and more important.
Right.
And it's going to become the norm, as you pointed out. If it's not already. I mean, there's always going to be, you can always straggle in and watch a movie a week after it's open. But these movies, especially in the summer, it's about seeing them first. So you can talk on Monday morning, whether you're at work or whether you're at school, wherever you are, you're part of the club that have this communal experience. In a way, it's preserving that communal experience with people, because it's made everybody want to have that communal experience, that opening weekend, that excitement. So in a way, it speaks to how strong the movie-going experience is. It's just becoming different in that it's catching up to where we are with social media and where the culture is at, and it's great for everybody, really.
And, you know, probably also a little bit of reflection is the growing popularity of A-list. So you see more people using A-list to book their tickets, which, you know, it's just a growing trend. We're going to see it continue. But listen, what do you guys think about this news about Toy Story 4? Clearly, this is good news for Toy Story. I'm just not so sure it's all that big of news. But do you think it's a bigger deal than we do? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know what you think about that. Okay, guys, with all the off-the-top topics out of the way, we're going to get to our main topics here in just a second. But since we're talking about box office and Toy Story and stuff like that, there is a new game online that I have really enjoyed playing, and they are one of the sponsors of the John Campea Show, fanjecture.com. It's all about playing the whole box office game like it's fantasy sports, which you know is something that I love. So we want to thank fanjecture.com for being one of the sponsors of the John Campea Show. Here, check out this short message explaining what exactly is fanjecture.com. Check this out.
Show off your box office prediction skills. With FanJexture. Fantasy sports for film fans. Play games like Fantasy Film Book, a sportsbook style game where the top films from the box office are matched up and given a spread and a total. Do your research and make your picks. Track your results as the box office numbers roll in. Compete for prizes every week. Always absolutely free. Want to enhance your gaming experience? Become a Patreon supporter for exclusive contests and content, weekly voting on future prizes, and play alongside your favorite film personalities. Visit fanjexture.com to learn more and play today.
All right, and we want to thank, again, the good folks at fanjecture.com for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. I haven't made my picks yet today. I got to go make, because I was getting ready for the show, I got to go make my picks. Jump on in there, compete against me, and let's have a good time. All right, guys, with all that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? It's really rather simple. See, you guys pick them out. How? By selecting your topics and questions and going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you're there, you'll see a form, fill it out with your topic or question, and then hit submit, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. Now, I'm reading out the messages you guys sent in, of course, because Ashley Whalen, she's back from her vacation, but she's an actress and she's filming commercials for money. Now, I love how successful she is in modeling and actress, but that's where she is. She'll be back again on Monday, so I'm going to cover for her right now as we dive into our first main topic today. And our first main topic today comes to us from Hank Dorsey, who writes, I really like Vanessa Hudgens, and you actually turned me on to that short-lived show she did called Powerless. I loved Powerless. Everybody else hated it, but I loved that show. Anyway, that I completely loved. I'm glad you liked it, Hank. You and me can be alone. Anyway, it looks like she's been using her social media lately to sort of campaign to get the role of Catwoman in the new Batman installment. So, 2 questions. 1, is Catwoman actually a character in the new movie? 2, what do you think of actors using social media to campaign for roles? Because I've seen it happening more and more. Thanks. All right, thanks a lot for that, Hank. And look, let me use this opportunity here quick just to talk about how much I actually really do love Powerless. It only lasted 1 season. When you watch the first episode, it feels very odd and weird, but as you watch it, you start to tune your brain into what they're going for. And by the time the series ended, I was heartbroken that it was ending. Like Van Wayne, Bruce Wayne's incompetent little cousin, is like the head of this company that Vanessa. Anyway, I love the show. So whatever. Of course, we know there's a new Batman movie coming. Matt Reeves has been working on it for 17 years, apparently. And we've seen some people, a growing trend of actors campaigning actively on their social media trying to get roles. We saw, I think it was Tyrese just recently tried to do it with Green Lantern. We've seen other people do it. Josh Gad has been doing it trying to get a Penguin role in the movie, right? So we've seen that happening. So what everybody's talking about right here is Vanessa Hudgens jumped on social media and started talking about Catwoman a little bit, and a bunch of people on her social media started sending her photos of her photoshopped as Catwoman, and she started feeding this. She goes, what do we got to do to make this happen? Vote yes to this. Do all this kind of stuff. One of the ones she brought up was actually a picture of DeVito and Pfeiffer as Penguin and Catwoman, and putting up and then a picture of herself with Josh Gad in the picture at the same time. And in the text above this image, it says, vote yes to this, and all that kind of stuff. Rob, look, on the one hand, I don't have any problem with an actor showing enthusiasm for a property, showing enthusiasm for a potential role, and kind of geeking out a little bit. I've got no problem with that. Look, it's how Samuel L. Jackson got the role in Star Wars. He got on The Late Show and talked about, like, basically the camera, I want to be in a Star Wars movie, and George put him in a Star Wars movie. So it's happened before. I don't know that it's happened since. Well, on the one hand, I find it kind of a fun thing for celebrities to involve themselves in. On the other hand, it's dumb. I don't think any filmmaker worth their salt is going to go, oh, well, they're on Twitter and saying they want to be it. Okay. I don't think any real filmmaker is going to take that seriously. So on the one hand, it's cool. On the other hand, it's not really a story, because really, an actor who earns their living by getting roles and getting paid wants a role in a big movie? No. Like, I always laugh a little bit when I see these headlines that say, so-and-so wants to be in a Star Wars movie. Every actor wants to be in a Star Wars movie, with maybe the few exception of a couple of multi-millionaire guys. Whatever. Of course, they're working actors. They get paid to move. Of course they want to. But this whole using social media thing to try to get a little bit of a groundswell is interesting. On the one hand, it's kind of fun. On the other hand, they don't seriously think this is going to get them a role, do you? Anyway, Rob, you're seeing this phenomenon played out because we've seen this happen a number of times. What do you think about the notion of celebrities using their social media to campaign to get a role?
It's not a good look, John. It's look, what you're doing then is you're removing the agency literally from the equation. You're not allowing the filmmakers, you're not allowing the people that are actually working on Batman to do their jobs. There's a casting director, there's the producers, there's the director himself. These are carefully considered choices, probably the most important choices you can make with a studio franchise property like this. There's a lot riding on it. And when an actor, what is Vanessa Hudgens, no offense to her, but in terms of box office, how does a studio roll the dice with her? What does she bring? She was on, as we talked about, Powerless. That was canceled. That's not exactly somebody that you can put on a movie poster and have people go, oh my God, I can't wait to see her as Catwoman. She might very well be a great Catwoman, but allow the process to continue. In my mind, look, there's the famous story about how Sean Young literally showed up at Warner Brothers, I guess in a Catwoman costume, trying to become Catwoman. Right, yeah. I mean, it's never something that you should be doing. I mean, her and Josh Gad would be great, but what if that's not the kind of movie they're making? I thought Anne Hathaway was a terrific Selena Kyle in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, and I didn't think she'd be a good fit, and then she ended up being my favorite part of that movie.
There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. I mean, I thought that was so great. Now, allow the filmmakers to do their jobs. That's what I would say.
Another good example of this is, remember when Thomas Jane had somebody do. I think it was Thomas Jane who had somebody do Photoshop effects on him as Jonah Hex.
Right.
And it was putting that. I mean, so we've seen. Oh, it might have been another actor, but anyway, there was some actor that did that. Now look, don't get me wrong. I would be, if they announced tomorrow that Vanessa Hudgens was going to be Catwoman, I'm perfectly good with that. I think she's delightful.
I do too.
And she's a fitness nut as well. Like she is muscular. She's in shape. She does a lot of very physical stuff. She was in a very action-oriented film in the Zack Snyder film,
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. And I thought she was, I didn't think Sucker Punch was overall a very good film, but I thought she was kind of delightful in that. I've always liked her. I have. So
I have too. But
if they announce her being in it tomorrow, I'm totally good with it. But I'm with you. This process of campaigning for it on social media, it's not a good look. I love the way you put that. It's not a good look.
If she's going to float one picture with her and Josh Gad, I'm okay with that. But if it becomes an ongoing campaign, then it looks like, it's a little desperate. But again, you're taking away if you want to become Catwoman, your agency should do their job. Your agency should be the one that's campaigning for you with the filmmakers and with the studio.
And hey, one of the most popular people on Instagram, I think she's got like almost 3.5 million followers on Instagram.
Well, that's actually impressive.
Yeah,
so.
this is good social media fun. What do you guys think? How would you guys be down for Vanessa Hudgens playing Catwoman? And the second question to that is, what do you guys think about actors trying to mount a campaign on social media to get roles? Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a bad thing? Let me know what you guys think. All right, let's move on now to the second main topic today. And the second main topic today comes to us from Maxie S., who writes, "Hi, JC and crew. Now that the Goldfinch trailer has been released, does that film look like a potential awards contender to you?" All right, what's his name? Ansel Elgort?
Yeah.
Is that the kid's name? Of course, he was in Baby Driver, which I absolutely love. He's in this new movie coming out based on a novel, I believe, Goldfinch, that they showed us a pretty big preview
it's based
for
on a novel.
At CinemaCon that we absolutely adored. It looked great. It looked solid. Trailer for it dropped today, showing much of the stuff that we saw at CinemaCon for Goldfinch. It does have a feel of an awards contender kind of film, and I can tell you this, the studio, when they were presenting this film at CinemaCon, they are very, very big on this movie. Rob, what did you think about what they showed us, and should we be excited for a Goldfinch movie?
First of all, it's based on a novel by Donna Tartt, who's one of my favorite writers, and I adore this book, and her first book, The Secret History, is the thing I most want to see translated into a movie. But this film I'm so excited about. It's from the director of Brooklyn, the Saoirse Ronan movie Brooklyn, that I really enjoyed. I think this movie looks great. I can't wait to see this film. And as far as I'm concerned, it's gone to the top of my must-see list and probably the top of my awards contender list. Now, we've seen movies like this before that didn't turn out as we'd hoped. So I'm all in on this, but man, the potential for me to be disappointed is enormous. But I cannot wait to see this movie.
Now, as somebody who has not read the book, it looks like, look, this is clearly high drama. There's a lot of stuff going on. This is a kid who suffered a loss and is still dealing with that loss as an adult. I get all that. What it didn't do for me is give me any sense of what the movie's about. I mean,
Right.
I understand they showed me a little bit of what is the background of this character, and this character is struggling with that. Okay. But ultimately, what's the movie about? And they didn't give us any. But I'll cut it a little bit of slack because it is a first trailer. It is just a tease for that. And as somebody who's read the book, Rob, I'm going to assume you can tell me there's more to this than just a kid who lost his mom.
There's a lot more to it.
Right. And I'm sure they'll probably give us more in future iterations of the trailers.
The book won a Pulitzer Prize, but it's the journey of an individual, and it's a great journey. And if you guys want to read a great novel, read The Goldfinch or read The Secret History, or even The Little Friend, her second book. They're all incredible reads, but Secret History and The Goldfinch are two of the best books I've read in the last 2 decades.
All right, guys. Well, listen, did you have a chance to see this Goldfinch trailer? What did you think about it? Are you expecting great things? Did it not catch your interest? Jump down in the comments section below and let us know what you think. All right, with that down, let's now move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today comes to us from Josh Sosa, who writes, "Hey, John, big fan of the show. Thank you so much, Josh. Ever since Fox was acquired by Disney, I'm always hearing people excited for a next big X-Men film in the MCU. However, something that you said that I love is that Kevin Feige doesn't rush anything. Could it be possible that following the Avengers formula, there could be a couple of solo X-Men films, such as Cyclops, Storm, Rogue, etc., before the big team-up film to both build up the team-up film and avoid depending on Wolverine for success? All right, thanks a lot for that question, Josh. And you're right. I mean, what a lot of people lose focus of, Disney buying Fox was never about X-Men. It was never about Fantastic Four. That is a distant afterthought. Them, it was about acquiring library and acquiring massive amounts of IP that they can then turn and leverage for their Disney Plus service, and then have some fringe benefits as well, like getting the X-Men. That's great, and all that kind of stuff. But what a lot of film fans have clearly and obviously been focused on is, when are we getting the X-Men movies? And then the question comes up, well, how do you do the X-Men films? There's been this growing feeling that I've always rejected, that, you know, DC would have been more successful if they started with individual films and then did a team-up movie. I reject that logic. I do. I think they could have started the DCU with a Justice League movie and been completely successful. The problem wasn't that they didn't follow a certain formula. The problem was they didn't make crowd-pleasing movies. That's been their Achilles heel. That's changing, but that's the problem they historically had. Had nothing to do about whether they started with solo movies. They did start with a solo movie. It was called Man of Steel. And people didn't appreciate it for the masterpiece that it is, damn it. Anyway, I won't go off on that whole thing again. But the thing to me is it's not a formula. You didn't need, I say this all the time, for Star Wars, George Lucas didn't need to make a standalone Han Solo movie, then a standalone Luke Skywalker movie, then a standalone Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, then a standalone Princess Leia movie, and then you do Star Wars. When James Gunn made Guardians of the Galaxy, he didn't need to make a standalone Star-Lord movie, and a standalone Gamora movie, and a standalone Drax movie, and a standalone Rocket movie, and then bring them together for that. They didn't need to do any of that. For Star Trek, they didn't need to do the solo stories of Lieutenant James Kirk and of then a solo thing of Spock and then a solo thing of Bones. No, they just made Star Trek. There you go. Go. Boom. And I think X-Men need to be treated the same way. I don't think you need to follow the Avengers formula in order for X-Men to be successful. They did X-Men. It was the most successful comic book movie of all time for a while. Then turned out X-Men 2, which I thought was the greatest comic book movie of all time for quite a while before it got replaced, and it's been replaced a few times since then. But I really don't see there being any need at all for them to launch solo films. That being said, I jumped on my social media last night, Rob, and I asked people, hey, do you guys have a thought on this about whether they should do X-Men first as a team-up movie, do solo movies first? Do you guys have some insight and thought? I got over 600 messages from people yesterday on my social media. And within those messages, let me be clear here, I am firmly of the belief that you do X-Men straight out of the gate as the X-Men. You don't need standalone solo movies. That is my position on this, always has been. But gleaning from the messages that I got from a bunch of people yesterday, I did find what I believe to be a couple of valid reasons if you wanted to go the solo movie first before getting to a team-up movie. I found some pretty decent arguments being made by some people who were responding to me. Let me go over three of them that I thought were kind of made sense. Why should you go with X-Men solo films first? Well, number one, it gives you an opportunity to give a deeper introduction to lesser known characters. Look, not a lot of people know who Rogue is, not a lot of people, whatever, and you can make an argument that if you just introduce Rogue in a team-up movie, you're not going to have time to really get to know who that character is in any sort of depth. Okay, that makes sense. And it gives you the opportunity to take like a Nightcrawler or a Beast or, I don't know, Havoc or whoever. Get the audience more familiar with them before you bring them in. I don't know that that's necessary, but it's a good point. It does give you that opportunity if you go the solo route first. A second decent argument, I think, is it gives the MCU team, like the team at MCU, Kevin Feige and his guys, more time to flesh out the new world that includes mutants. One of the biggest hurdles I've seen that this X-Men thing coming into the MCU is going to present is, how do you explain your world? How do you retcon your entire world? Mutants have been around for a long time and have been a major part of the political landscape in X-Men mythology for a long time. How do you recreate that world? And if you did do a couple of solo movies first, that does give the creative team at Marvel a longer period of time to flesh that world out. I acknowledge that's not a bad argument. The third one is this as well. It gives the opportunity to completely reset the X-Men origin stories with new versions of the Charles and Eric story. You can just say, you know what, mutation is now a new thing. And we've got these new characters, Charles and Eric, two mutants that now find they're mutants. They have these powers that are incredible, but they have two different philosophies about how mutants interact with the world. And it gives you the opportunity to restart the story. Again, I'm not saying that's what I would do, but it is a pretty good argument. So you look at arguments like giving introduction to lesser known characters, giving the creative team at the MCU more time to flesh out the world, and gives you the opportunity to kind of reset a new thing by starting with a, Eric movie, just a movie called Eric, just following Eric Legend, Charles following him, and then kind of resetting the world. It gives you those opportunities. Again, not something that I would do, but I could see the argument of somebody doing that. Rob, let me pose the question to you in two different ways. Number one, do you think X-Men should start with an X-Men movie? Whenever it does happen, and it's not going to happen for years, but when they do, should they start with an X-Men film or should they start with solo things? And what are some maybe decent thoughts or decent arguments you think that would support the idea of maybe doing solo films first?
Well, first of all, I love the X-Men. They're like what Star Trek is to me on television. The X-Men are to me in the comic books. I love the X-Men. I would posit that there are already mutants in the MCU. We just haven't seen them yet. We've seen two. We've seen Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. They're called miracles. They haven't been identified as mutants yet because no one really knows they're there. The way we're seeing the world through S.H.I.E.L.D. and through the Avengers, they just haven't crossed paths. The X-Men have not emerged on the public in the public arena yet. So Storm in the comics was married to Black Panther. Why not introduce Storm? You could in a solo movie and have her cross over with Black Panther. I think that there's a lot of ways there's a lot of arguments to be made for a solo Wolverine movie. We haven't seen Wolverine emerge yet. We don't know the Canadian super team Alpha Flight, which Wolverine was a part of. There's ways you could introduce these characters and lead up to the X-Men and again, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were a big part of the X-Men lore and mythology over the course of both the Avengers and the X-Men comic runs. So it could be done. I think having maybe one solo movie and introduce a marquee character that way, whether, like you said, whether it's Eric, because Magneto is, of course, the father of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Maybe that's what it's about. Maybe Scarlet Witch goes looking for her father. Who knows? And finds him. And that's the way we get the new version of Magneto. There's ways it can be done, but I think a solo film wouldn't be a bad way. But like you, John, I think introducing an X-Men, we already saw how the X-Men were introduced as a team in 2000. It worked great. But using the threads that already exist in the MCU to build up to it could be really great as well. And maybe have one solo movie that leads into a larger movie. And, you have Scarlet Witch leave the Avengers and become an X-Man. I don't know.
One thing I don't think they're going to do, I don't think they're going to retcon Scarlet Witch or Quicksilver if and when he ever comes back.
It's just they weren't recognized as mutants yet.
Well, but they got their powers from their experimentation with the Infinity Stone because of the experiments. That's how they made them out of there, and their parents had different backstories. I don't think they're going to connect.
That's how they think they made them.
I know. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to leave Wanda as she is in the movies. I don't think they're going to suddenly say she's a mutant. I don't think they're going to go that route. I don't think suddenly they're going to say whatever this new Eric character is going to be her father. I don't think they're going to do that either. But there is no limit on what the potential is of what they could do. I mean, those are certainly things that'll be available to them if they wanted to do it. The question here, guys, is what do you think that Marvel should do with the X-Men? Do you think when they're ready to bring them into the MCU, should they bring them in an X-Men movie right out of the gate? Do you think they should probably go some solo films first? Let us know what you guys think. Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. Let's move on to main topic number 4 now. And main topic number 4 comes to us from Vince Baggio, who writes, "Hey, the John Campea Show crew. Not sure how I feel about this. I kind of thought the whole New Gods movie, that Ava DuVernay, was dead since we haven't heard anything about it since they announced it over a year ago. Then, earlier tonight, I read that it looks like it's still happening, and they attached a comic book writer, Tom King, to write the script with Ava DuVernay. Doesn't this feel like a bad idea, considering the positive progress the DC films have made recently, doing more simple, single-character, focused movies?" All right, thanks a lot for that, Vince. And what Vince is referring to here is, he's right, it was a little over a year ago that Selma filmmaker Ava DuVernay, unfortunately, did such a great job on Selma. Unfortunately, not such a great job on Wrinkle in Time, but whatever. They announced that she was going to be doing this DC New Gods movie. Now, that was before a lot of the upheaval started happening at DC. And before they started changing a lot of things, before Cyborg got scrapped, before it looks like the Flash movie's getting scrapped, before a lot of different things happened, that kind of came and went. And recently it does look like they have really been deciding, Walter Hamada has been trying to simplify things at the DCU. Just standalone Aquaman movie. Just let Aquaman be Aquaman. Don't even connect it to the DCU much, other than a quick reference to Steppenwolf. And that was it. Shazam, which is a completely standalone thing, other than some quick references to the outside DCU world. We got Wonder Woman 84, which is going to be very much a standalone film as well. It seems they've been simplifying it. New Gods is a horse, as they would say in Wizard of Oz, is a horse of a completely different cover. You're talking about two distant worlds, one called Apocalypse, one called New Genesis, led by the High Father and Darkseid and multiple characters and all this kind of stuff. That's a different thing than what it seems like Walter Hamada's been doing. Rob, let me ask you this. What do you think at this point in their reconstruction? Because I kind of feel like the DC movies are in a very good reconstruction right now, and they've got some positive progress going. What do you think about them still moving forward with a New Gods movie? And what do you think about this whole notion of them bringing in a comic book writer, who I'm sure you're familiar with, he's an award-winning comic book writer, coming in to work on something like this? What do you think about it?
Well, first of all, truth be told, I have a massive crush on Ava DuVernay. I mean, I don't know why. I think she's amazingly, she's smart. If you've seen her documentary, The 13th, it's an amazing documentary. She's clearly, and she's been involved, she's a self-made woman. There's a lot to admire about her as a filmmaker. I really like Selma, as you did. I was very disappointed by Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, me too.
She really let me down, and it's hard to do. Now, The New Gods is a huge, gigantic. It's Jack Kirby. It's the cornerstone of this section of the DC universe. You've got New Genesis and Apocalypse and all these characters, from Mr. Miracle to Darkseid to Big Barda to Granny Goodness to the Black Racer. I mean, there's so many crazy characters in the New Gods. I don't know if Ava DuVernay is the person to do it, but the fact that she got Tom King in there, it gives me hope that she's at least looking, and DC is looking to make this the best movie it can be, which is what they're always doing. To find somebody who's familiar with the comic book world, somebody's on the top of the comic book writing game right now. So it's exciting to me from that perspective, because I want to see her make a kick-ass movie. I've loved the New Gods. I love the whole fourth world. I love Jack Kirby, and if John Schnepp were here, he'd be like, oh, yes, the fourth world. I mean, he would be very, very excited, and I'm excited too, and I want it to be good. But I think it's a good move.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that King, the comic that he won his award for, Mr. Miracle, that is a direct connection to the New Gods, because I believe Mr. Miracle is supposed to be like the son of High Father and raised by Darkseid and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely why they hired him. Mr. Miracle is one of the New Gods, and he's been a member of the Justice League, and that's exactly why, because that new Mr. Miracle run was great, and it was by the way, it's collected, you can get it now in a graphic novel form, and it was a great comic, and I think that's exactly why she probably read that book and said, I want to get this guy. And Brian K. Vaughan, who wrote things like Why the Last Man and Ex Machina, and he's had a great career. Now he's writing movies now too. He was a writer on Lost, and so it's not.
Runaways is one of my favorite shows on TV
ever.
Right now. Yeah,
and for superheroes, it's one of the best superhero TV shows ever. So having these comic book writers make the transition to TV is, I think, it can reap big dividends, and hopefully it will on the big screen.
And he's not doing it himself. Like, she's probably going to do the lifting of the script, but having him there to contribute to story, I think, is probably a good advantage.
Totally.
I just think it's an interesting move to move forward with a movie like this, when it seems like Hamada's had this plan that seems to involve simplifying it a bit, staying very single, having a little bit more grounded. that kind of stuff. So who knows? Maybe this will be a gamble that really pays off well.
I think they think this of this is probably their version of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right, which is what they've been looking for.
Even though I think it's more of their version of the Eternals, but that Marvel's doing that. It's very interesting I never would have thought we'd even be talking about a new Gods movie or an Eternal movie.
Neither did I.
Movie. It's amazing.
All right, guys, what do you think about this? Are you excited about them moving forward with this new Gods project? Do you think maybe this is something they should put off for a few more years down the line? Do you think, nah, man, this is overdue? Jump down in the comment section and let us know what you guys think. All right, with that down, let's go on to our final main topic of the day. And our final main topic today comes to us from Dobby the House Elf, who writes, with June now upon us, it's hard to imagine. It's already June, man, in just another couple of days. With June now upon us and the prime summer months now being here, I wanted to know what you see as the most anticipated movies of the summer that are left. Any sleepers we should be keeping our eyes on or unrecognized ones we should look out for? Thanks and bring on the filthy. By the way, I saw Ma and the writers must watch your show because the teen girl yells, let's bring the filthy in the movie. Did you notice it? I would be lying to you if I said I didn't notice it. Yeah, there's a scene in the movie where the girl yells at a party, let's bring the filthy or let's get filthy, something like that. And I went, I'm not going to lie. Tate Taylor is not ripping off John Campea for his movie Ma. But I got to admit, I went like, hey, so that was fun to see. Anyway, let's get to the question. We are now in June. You know, the summer movie season, Rom, it used to start in June. Then some people started considering May. And then some people started considering April as a start. But we are now in the heart of the summer months right now. We're getting into June. We got a whole bunch of movies left. What are the movies that we should be looking forward to right now? I would propose, and there's a whole bunch of good movies still to come. I'm going to break this down from what I see are the movies you gotta see, the movies you should see, and the movies you might want to see. I'm not putting every movie on this list, but I'm breaking it down to those. Rob, here's how I'm breaking it down. Then I want to hear what you think about this. Falling under the category of must see, we got Toy Story 4 still coming this summer. We got Spider-Man Far From Home coming. Obviously, we've got Lion King. We got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We got, I'm putting this one under the must-see, Hobbs and Shaw. And we've got Good Boys, which I thought was the stupidest sounding idea for a movie. And the first 30 seconds of the trailer I thought were dumb. And then it completely won me over. I now cannot wait for Good Boys. So how many do I got there? 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 6 movies under my must-see. Must absolutely see this summer. Now I got a few that I would say, hey, yeah, you should see these. Secret Life of Pets 2. I really like the first Secret Life of Pets. So I'm excited for this one. So I think I'm going to put that under should see. Also, the new Men in Black. I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. Shaft, while I have not loved the trailers, just the principle of it, I'm kind of excited about it. So I'm putting that one under should see. I'm also going to put that female John Wick kind of ripoff movie, but it is kind of a John Wick female ripoff movie, but I don't care. It looks like a lot of fun, and that's Anna. Cannot wait to see that. The new Annabelle, I love the last Annabelle a lot. Stuber, which is another one. This is the one with Kumail Nanjiani and Dave Bautista. That, again, I thought it looked dumb, and then they showed us the previews for it. I'm like, okay, I'm on board. And The Kitchen with Elizabeth Moss, McCarthy, and Tiffany Haddish. That, on paper, again, sounds kind of like these were mobster wives, and now they're becoming the mobsters. It looks great. So I'm going to put that one under the should see. Now I've got my list of could sees. You could see these because there could be upside. Dark Phoenix, again, we're hearing bad things, but it's an X-Men film. It's the final one of the franchise. You might want to put that one on your list. Child's Play is one that has a lot of people excited. I think the trailers look better than I thought they would, so I'm putting that on my could see list. Yesterday is one I would have put on my must see list. That's the one where the guy wakes up and he's the only person in the world who remembers the Beatles. But I've been hearing some early feedback from the film, and I'm not hearing great things, which kind of breaks my heart. So I'm not going to take it off my list, but I'll bump it down to could see. Midsommar, which is that little freaky A24 trailer that just dropped that I knew nothing about till I saw it. It's like, okay, that's got to go on my list. Crawl, the one about the storm that hits Florida and it's got the alligators in there terrorizing this family. That looked like a lot of fun. Blinded by the Light, about this Middle Eastern kid who's been completely moved and inspired by the music of Bruce Springsteen. And another Dave Bautista one, My Spy, which also looks kind of cute. So that's how I'm breaking down the remaining. Again, there are other movies coming out, just none of them that I would put on any of these lists, either the could see, should sees, or must sees. But that's how I got these broken down. Rob, you're looking at this list. Do I got anything on my must see list that you wouldn't have on my list?
No.
Anything that I don't have in my must see list that you would put in absolutely must see?
Well, I'll tell you, I would bump up Midsummer from, what is it, could see to must see. Because Avi Asher directed Hereditary. And this is his follow-up to that. And look, as a horror fan, by the way, apropos of nothing, there's a totally bonkers horror film that dropped on Netflix called The Perfection. Now,
I've had people writing to me about this. I know nothing about it, though.
Now, I'm not saying it's going to be what it's for you. And I don't even know if they stick the landing. I've been seeing people arguing about it on my feed. But it's worth watching. It's 90 minutes of fun. So check that out. But I really want to see Midsummer. Everything else you look, I love the Fast and Furious movies, and as much as we joke about Justice for Han, I really want to see Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah. Even if it doesn't have any verisimilitude or whatever, I still want to see it. So I'm with you with your list, but I really want, I want to, every summer should have a great horror film, and Midsummer looks to be that movie. And I can't, anything with evil cults, I will watch. Ever since I saw Race with the Devil and The Car, but Race with the Devil was a cult movie I saw when I was 10. I love satanic cults. Any movie with satanic cults I will watch. And I don't know if Midsummer's about a satanic cult, but it looked like it's about some kind of a cult. I'm in.
I can see the quotes now online. I love satanic cults. Robert Meyer Burnett. There we go. So
as villains.
As villains. What do you guys think about the films that are coming out? How do you like the list that I put up? How would you rearrange that list? Which films am I ignoring that I shouldn't be ignoring? What films did I just miss that maybe I just missed? Jump into the comments section and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all of that down and out of the way, we're going to move on to some live questions. But before we do, there's a bunch of other things going on in the world of movie news that, quite frankly, we don't have time to get around to as main topics. But I want to make sure if you're watching the John Campea Show, you get caught up to date with all the stuff going on. So right now, fact checker Jonathan Voico proudly presents to you today's installment of the Movie News Feed. Check it out.
First up, although Godzilla King of Monsters is just a day away from release, another question is dividing people. Are you Team Kong or Team Godzilla? It's a debate that's already been pretty prevalent in pop culture, and that's unlikely to slow down in the coming months. From Cinema Blend, if you were to ask Godzilla King of Monsters actor O'Shea Jackson which side of the debate he's on, he'd likely tell you he's Team Godzilla all the way. The actor recently said, "Look man, I'm tired of this gorilla bro. Gorillas are mad normal. You made it bigger? I don't care, like, that's so weak. King Kong has been overrated since I was a kid, sorry." Regardless of who the underdog is, I'm pretty sure the real winners will be the audience members when Kong vs. Godzilla smashes into theaters May 22nd, 2020. Next up, Hollywood talent agencies have proposed to the Writers Guild of America that stalled talks resume on June 7th. From Variety, if the talks go ahead, it will be the first formal negotiations in nearly 2 months. The Guild directed its nearly 15,000 members on April 12th, when negotiations collapsed, to terminate relations with agents who refused to sign its new code of conduct, which bars agencies from accepting packaging fees and engaging in ownership of production companies. Next up, there's been a change-up of stars for the upcoming pilot of ABC's Stumptown starring Cobie Smulders of Marvel's The Avengers. From The Wrap, New Girl alum Jake Johnson has joined the cast of the upcoming ABC drama Stumptown. Johnson will step in for Mark Webber, who starred opposite Cobie Smulders in the Private Eye drama's original pilot as Gary McConnell, Smulders' character's best friend. The role marks Johnson's first gig as series regular following the conclusion of New Girl last year. Next up, it seems British pop star biopics are in season. The award-winning Queen and Freddie Mercury story Bohemian Rhapsody landed with rave reviews. Elton John's story Rocketman starring Taron Egerton is about to rock theaters. Now, from Deadline, MGM will produce a feature film based on the life of iconic singer Boy George, with Sasha Gervasi of My Dinner with Herve and Anvil: The Story of Anvil set to write and direct. The untitled Boy George film will explore his humble beginnings in an Irish working-class family, through his rise to the top of the international charts with the 80s band Culture Club. The larger-than-life George never disguised who he was, a fearless, ruthless, honest young man with an open identity who was years ahead of his time. The Grammy-winning artist has sold more than 100 million singles and over 50 million albums as a performer and songwriter with Culture Club, and also as a solo artist. Next up, Skydance and Netflix's The Old Guard adaptation of the graphic novel has added Marwan Kenzari of Aladdin to the cast, who will be joining Oscar winner Charlize Theron. From comingsoon.net, Kenzari will play a man who was once a Moor warrior. The Old Guard tells of a small group of soldiers, led by a woman named Andy, played by Theron, who are inexplicably immortal and have been working as mercenaries through the ages. The novelty of not dying long gone, the group gets a jolt in their bones when they discover the existence of a new immortal, a woman serving in the Marines, at the same time as a nefarious organization captures their undying actions on camera. And finally, Stan Lee once asked Arnold Schwarzenegger what his ultimate Hollywood dream would be. Schwarzenegger didn't have to think long. From The Hollywood Reporter, the actor recounted, "My ultimate dream is to do more Conan movies and more Terminator movies. The one movie I think would be a fantastic sequel is Kindergarten Cop," Schwarzenegger recalled. Not long after, Lee called up the former governor and asked what he'd think about doing an animated series that shared some similarities to Kindergarten Cop, but with a twist. The teacher would be a former superhero, and his students would be superpowered 5-year-olds. The result is the upcoming animated series, Stan Lee's Superhero Kindergarten. The series is aimed at children and centers on Arnold Armstrong, played by Schwarzenegger, a gym teacher who was granted superpowers and spent decades fighting crime as Captain Courage. He retired from public life, but returns after an explosion of superpowered particles rained down and kids with superpowers began surfacing. Now he works as a kindergarten teacher to help train these children. No release plans have been set for the series. And that will do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed.
And now you are all caught up to date with all the stuff going on in the world of entertainment, and thank you to Jonathan Voico for putting that together for us today. All right, guys, it's now time for us to move over to your live questions. You guys have been firing in a ton of them, so let's get right to it. And we're going to start things off here with, who are we starting off with? Nathan Oswald, who writes, "I am so pumped for Rambo Last Blood." Nathan, I'll tell you what, I was kind of excited about it already. Seeing that trailer, it even hyped me up even more. I totally agree. Madsev Jada writes, "What foreign cinema would you recommend?" Like what foreign films? God, there are millions. But a couple of my favorites, I'll always talk about a couple of my favorites. One is Infernal Affairs, which is the original version of what Martin Scorsese remade into The Departed. It's my all-time favorite cop movie, Infernal Affairs. So, and the sequel, some people think is even better. Amelie is another one you absolutely got to cut up. But my absolute favorite of all time is Roberto Benigni's all-time masterpiece, Life is Beautiful. That is my number one favorite foreign film of all time. Rob, you got any just off the top of my head?
Oh my God, any of Kurosawa's samurai movies, Rashomon, Seven Samurai, any of Francois Truffaut's films, Andrei Tarkovsky, watch Solaris if you want to see an incredible science fiction movie. There's a recent Japanese movie that I tell people to watch that's very Quentin Tarantino-esque called The World of Kaneko.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes.
It's a lot of fun. And if you want to see another cool modern Japanese film, watch the original Battle Royale.
Oh, that one's great.
Yeah.
It is a good day for killing.
I mean, it's
rough, though. A lot of people have a hard time watching that.
It's real kids killing each other. It's great.
There would be no Hunger Games if it wasn't for Battle Royale. All right, Jacob Silvers sends in a big super chat. Thank you, Jacob, for supporting us on that level. Somewhere in the pad of stuff is a toy who taught... Oh, this is from Toy Story 2. Somewhere in that pad of stuff is a toy who taught me that life is only worth living if you're being loved by a kid. And I traveled all this way to rescue that toy because I believed him. Buzz Lightyear, Toy Story 2. I like with whatever pessimism may go around about Toy Story 4 and all that kind of stuff, I don't care. I love this franchise. This franchise, first of all, you're talking about a trilogy where 2 out of the 3 films are amongst the only films in Hollywood history, wide release film history, that hold 100% critic rating. And one of them, the worst one of them all, holds a 98. Out of a possible 300, you have 298. And it's not just a number. These are some of my most beloved films of all time. There's so many great moments of heart, and they just kept getting better. Like Toy Story 2 was even better than the first one. Toy Story 3 was even better than 2. Can they top it with Toy Story 4? I don't know. But Rob, I mean, you've watched these Toy Story movies. Where's their place in history for you as the types of films that they are?
No, I think they're stunning achievements. I mean, they're clearly some of the best animated films ever made in terms of their story, their emotion, their heart, their characters. They're some of the finest films of all time, to be honest. And I they might be. If you had to vote on what the greatest animated movies of all time are, they would have to be in that conversation. Absolutely. I mean, you can go back and talk about, Cinderella or Snow White or Pinocchio, the early Fantasia is maybe up there. There's many, many Japanese movies that I would put up there. There's French but the Toy Story films are dare I say it, collectively, probably the three, well, maybe the four, but the three greatest animated films ever made collectively, what they represent. I mean, they're amazing movies.
And cannot wait for 4. Cannot wait for 4. All right, let's move on here. Stubble McShave writes, the writing and acting in Chernobyl is wonderful, but you can't overstate the awesome directing by fellow Swede Johan Rennick. I honestly have not been paying attention, and I should. This is terrible that I haven't. I have not been paying attention to who is actually directing the episodes, but I'm telling you what, Rob, the person who wrote them the other day were right. The 4th episode of Chernobyl did drop, and I watched it, and I
haven't seen it.
Oh my God. As a dog guy, it really gets to me.
Is it the last episode?
I don't know. I don't think so. No.
Okay.
No, it's not. I think it's a 6-parter, 6 or 8. I can't remember, but no. But it is, oh my God. It's amazing.
But I agree with Stubble. I mean, I'm always going on about verisimilitude and how difficult verisimilitude, that is the sense of reality, of believability that is created with everything that you see in the frame. I've never seen something, I think, that has been so convincing. I don't know how, but the direction is Stubble's absolutely right. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so well done. If you guys are not on board yet with Chernobyl, you got to get on board with this show because it's insanely good. Zach Bartran writes, are there any annoying cutaways from the action in in Godzilla King of the Monsters, like in the 2014 Godzilla? One or two, but only like any other action film will do. Like there's actually a dramatic, when they do cut away from the action, there's actually a dramatic purpose for it, not just to cut away from it, but it's minimal. I had no problem with that part of it. It was that's one of the areas that I think was a big improvement for this movie over the 2014 one. It's like, okay, we've been waiting for an hour to monsters fight, and the monsters start to fight and cut away to a couple people sitting in a living room. It's like, wait, what? What did you just do? They don't do that. I'm not going to say they don't cut away at all. They do, but there's usually a purpose for it, and then they come back. But I thought that was a big area improvement. Rob, like you love the movie, but
yeah.
I'm assuming you agree that was a big area improvement over the first one.
In the first movie, it seemed like they were cutting away to play with the audience.
Right.
And I understood they wanted to make it, his philosophy was, here's a ground's eye point of view about what it would be like if Godzilla existed. You wouldn't stand around watching. You'd be running. So somebody goes into a shelter, they slam the doors when Godzilla appears. I get that. This movie the King of the Monsters does none of that.
No, absolutely none. All right, Curtis Lopez writes, does Anne say Anne is my wife? You know nothing, John Campea. No, but we'll often wake up in the morning, I'll lean over and give her, she's not a morning person. So I'll wake up as my alarm goes off at 5. I'll lean over and kiss her on the cheek and say, good morning, honey. And she'll just go, I hate your face. If I had a nickel for every time she said, I hate your face to me, I'd be pretty wealthy. All right, next, Starkiller writes, Rob and John, I have to catch up this weekend. Which order should I watch these movies from best to least? Ma, Aladdin, Godzilla, and Brightburn. Thanks. All right, Rob and I are clearly going to give these in different orders. Here's mine. First one to see is actually Aladdin. Second one to see is Ma. Third one to see is Brightburn. Fourth one to see is Godzilla. That's how I would order them. Rob, how would you order those ones?
Well, I would say Aladdin first to go for the populist route. Then I would say Godzilla. And I have not seen Ma and Brightburn before. From what I've heard, I would say Ma and then Brightburn.
All right. Let's see. And I think there's potential to like all of them. I think there's potential to like all of them. I don't like all of them. I was a little disappointed with Brightburn, a little with Godzilla, but there are definitely people who do really enjoy those films, so there's potential you could like all of them. All right, Nathan Oswald writes, watching Tony Stark die felt as if I was watching my best friend die right in front of me. From the moment he sits down, gasping for breath, till the end credits, I couldn't stop crying full tears. It was a very well put together scene that did not have that emotional impact on me. And the only reason it didn't was it's one of the consequences of Marvel's fake death universe. They have fake deathed so many times. And remember, I mentioned this in Infinity War when that fabulous Spider-Man death scene. I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. It's such a good scene. And I enjoyed it. I liked it. But I know I was robbed of some of my emotional reaction to it because the MCU has fake death so often. I can only feel so much for it because I know Spider-Man's coming back. When they kill Thor, he's going to be back. Just start the countdown clock. And even now when they kill Tony, I have zero doubt he's going to be back. Whether it's one of these lame alternate reality Tonys, or whether it's a different timeline Tony, or whether it's just Tony brought back by something, or Tony. Whatever it is, I just believe he's going to be back. So even though it was just like the Spider-Man scene, beautifully done scene, I just couldn't feel that type of emotion because this is what Marvel does. Look, everybody, this character's dead. They're back. And so it robs me a little bit, but that does not take away from how well that scene was executed, just like the Spider-Man scene. I might have even liked this one a little bit more than the Spider-Man scene. And that Spider-Man scene was glorious. I don't know, Rob, how do you feel about that?
Well, look, it works for me. I mean, following Tony Stark from Iron Man 1 all the way to the end of Endgame, I bought into it because I think he truly is gone. We might see him come back as a hologram or as Jarvis, but that's what made the movie work. That's what made the movie sort of it was leading up to that, and I was moved. I was moved.
And I wanted to be moved. They robbed me of it. That's all. It was still great though. Don't get me wrong. It was still great. All right. Daniel Shatford writes, over under 65%. Marvel grosses more than $5 billion this year globally. Bear in mind, Spider-Man Far From Home will have to make around $1.2 billion to reach this. Technically speaking, Spider-Man Far From Home doesn't count because it's a Sony movie. Now, but if you just want to have a in principle discussion about, in principle MCU movies, so talking like MCU Marvel movies, then we can count that in. Okay, so we've got almost $3 billion. When you combine Captain Marvel and Endgame, you're talking about almost $4 billion right there.
Yeah.
So what you need is Spider-Man to reach around 1.2. Look, I've said before, I believe Spider-Man can be a $1 billion film. The first one made over $800 million. Audiences in mass loved it. They love Spider-Man character. He got a big pop in Endgame. This movie looks really good. I don't think there's any reason to believe it won't make $1 billion, and it may not, but I think $1.2 million is within, or $1.2 billion is within reason. So I'm going to say 65% is a big number, though. I'll still take the over. I think the three Marvel films will make over $5 billion. What do you think, Rob?
I'll take the over as well.
Yeah, okay. Next up, Jetfire writes, how did Loki slash the Tesseract pass Pierce in the first time? That's a good question because, but I have a feel, look, Tony knew that was coming. He knew they were going to counter Pierce downstairs. So I don't know, maybe Thor just says, enough! And pushes everybody out of the way and they leave. But I don't know. But I don't know it's necessarily all that important. Ketchup on eggs. What a username. And they even have an avatar of ketchup on eggs. John, just give me a try. Why don't you love me? Because you're from the pit of hell, straight out of the devil's anus. I hate ketchup on eggs. It makes me vomit. All right, Chris Hamilton writes, I know you don't like to talk politics. No, I do not. But I am curious to know your thoughts on Bob Iger saying that if Georgia passes the proposed abortion laws, that Disney would find it difficult to operate in the state. I'm not going to get into politics here. I'll talk a little bit of politics on my personal social media channels, but this show is for film fans. We're all film fans, be we right or left or whatever. We're film fans, blah, blah, blah. What I will say is this. Just like every other studio, Disney has the option of 1,000 places they can go and shoot their movies. And if for whatever reason they want to go and shoot their movies elsewhere, they are perfectly within their rights to do that. Just like Warner Brothers can shoot their movies anywhere they want, just like Paramount can shoot their movies anywhere they want, like Lionsgate can shoot their movies wherever they want, like Universal can shoot their movies wherever they want. Disney can shoot their movies wherever they want for whatever reason they want. And whether it's a political reason, an economical reason, a philosophy reason, a convenience reason, whatever, it doesn't matter. They have a right to shoot wherever they want, and that's how I'm going to kind of end it because I do not want us to get dragged into a political discussion. Rob, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think it was well put. I mean, without getting political, that's a company's able to do whatever the hell they want. They can put their money wherever they want to put it.
All right. Nathan Oswald writes, if people want to add inflation for worldwide box office, then Gone with the Wind is the victor at 3.7. Yes, but I've gone over 1,000,000 times why that's a fool's errand. Like that's an you're creating artificial numbers when you add in inflation because inflation is a variable. But if you want to start playing that game, there are about 24 other variables you need to take in consideration as well. And you either take in all the variables or you take in none of them, because it's not fair to cherry pick one variable and ignore all the other ones. So that's why just the flat, I believe the best way to account for it is just the flat straight numbers. So I don't really take inflation into it at all, because it's a little bit of a straw man, really. I'm upset writes, Soul Plane turned 15 years old today. Rob, we don't celebrate Soul Plane.
No, we don't. We do not, but I just love that somebody sent that in. Kudos to you.
15 years. I would have thought, honestly, if you had asked me, like as we were starting the show, how old do I think that I probably would have just said 10, 15.
Yeah, that's...
I guess now that I think about it, it does make sense. It was a while. But yeah, you're right. I think that's the first time somebody brought up Soul Plane on the show. Well done. Well done. All right, let's move on here. Listen, Alan Valley writes, how cool is it that they use the original Japanese theme for the new Godzilla movie? Love it when they use old themes in new movies like Justice League. I get a kick out of it. Ultimately, it doesn't make the movie any better. Like, I remember in Justice League, Hans Zimmer worked in a few bars of the original John Williams Superman theme, and that's fun to hear. It's cool to hear. It doesn't ultimately affect anything. I love it when in the Abrams movies, they every once in a while, they'll sneak in a bit of the original bum, bum, bum. They'll just slip that in. I get a big kick out of that. Ultimately, it doesn't really do much, but it's a fun moment. Rob, how do you think about it?
Look, Bear McCreary knocked it out of the park with the score for King of the Monsters, and he touches on the Godzilla theme, the Ghidorah theme, the Mothra theme. There's so much great stuff in this music. Buy the soundtrack. It kicks ass.
All right. Next one up is Nathan Oswald, who writes, better Genesis era, Gabriel or Collins? First of all, Phil Collins is one of my all-time favorite musicians. I love Peter Gabriel. I've gone to see him a couple of times at the Hollywood Bowl. I love Peter Gabriel. I'm probably going to go the Phil Collins era. Not that Collins is better than Gabriel. I think I just like the Genesis. Not that I'm an expert on Genesis by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I like the Collins era a little bit better. What about you, Rob?
Well, I'm a huge Peter Gabriel fan, but here's the thing. I think that the original Genesis lineup, there's a great documentary about Genesis, by the way. I don't know what it's called, but I watched it recently. I like the Peter Gabriel version, but I also really like Phil Collins, like you said. And there's a lot of great Phil Collins Genesis out there. I think, for instance, I don't think, if you were to say, do you like the Hagar version or the David Lee Roth version of Van Halen? I think the Van Halen version is David Lee Roth. I don't think the Van Hagar version is nearly as good. But I do think that the Peter Gabriel and the Phil Collins versions of Genesis are pretty much equal.
I'm a Van Hagar guy.
Dude,
I know. I get that.
How
all the
can
time.
you be a Van Hagar
But
guy?
I'm a Van Hagar guy. I like it under David Lee Roth. I just like the stuff they did with Hagar.
I'm gonna jump off this show.
Jump. Okay. Just be quiet
Panama.
and go talk to teacher, who you are hot for apparently. All right, go talk to your local Army recruiter, Kevin. My wife finally saw Mr. Brooks and loved it, dude. I love this movie.
It's good.
While I love the interaction with William Hurt, do you think Costner could have gotten an Oscar nomination if he played the role himself? #filthy. I'll tell you right now, Kevin Costner should have gotten an Academy Award nomination for his role in Mr. Brooks. This movie, as much as I love Dexter, this movie was a better Dexter. This movie was around before Dexter. I love this movie. Now, I think it was actually important for the movie that the William Hurt version of the character does exist in a different physical form. I think that actually plays into the movie, so I think it was important. If they did have Kevin Costner playing that role, I think it would have been to the detriment of the movie overall. Maybe it would have got him a little bit more attention, but damn it, he should have been nominated anyway. I thought he was fantastic in that movie. I just feel like at that point, Hollywood might have been a little bit tired of Kevin Costner and didn't give him his due for that movie. And I know a lot of people did not go see that movie. If you get a chance to watch Mr. Brooks, you should check it out because it's quite enjoyable. I loved it. Did you ever have a chance to watch Mr. Brooks,
I love
Rob?
Mr. Brooks, actually. I'm a big fan of the film, and I agree with you. I think that movie, you know what, it's kind of forgotten.
It is.
It's not that old, but it's forgotten. People don't, it's weird.
All right, next up is our friend DC Patience, who writes, favorite song in Aladdin? Mine is Friend Like Me. I was so impressed by their version of Friend Like Me in the new one. I really was. But I gotta say, My favorite one isn't the new one by Naomi Scott's Speechless, which is also very, very good. I love the Prince Ali song. Make way for Prince Ali. I love that song. Genuflect, show some respect, down on one knee. I don't know why I love that. And in the movie, they made such a grand number out of it. That's my favorite song. I know you haven't seen it yet, Rob, but once you do, I'm going to ask you what your favorite song in that was as well. All right, Suthius writes, morning, gents. Did you watch the Galaxy's Edge opening ceremony? Bohemian or brother man Iger had on a suede jacket looking like the pimp boss he is. George, Mark, Billy D, and Harrison were also there giving remarks. Yes, and last night, when we got home last night, after I got home, I should say, from watching Godzilla, she was there on her phone watching it on social media, and I watched a bunch of it too. Very cool. I'm going in 2 weeks. We got our hotels booked. We've got our time slot booked. I'm going to be there in two weeks. The only thing I'm worried about, Rob, is that I'm going to lose all my money because I'm going to be in there for 5 minutes, and then I'm just going to go up to the Seasons Pass purchase table, hang my head, and just hand them my wallet and say whatever it takes. And it's going to cost probably, and I don't have this, it's probably going to cost $3,000 for me and Ann to get the unlimited Seasons Pass. That's like their top-notch pass. It's probably going to cost us like thousands and thousands of dollars to get these. And I'm going to be in Star Wars land for like 5 minutes and go, I have to come here every day and hand over all my money. That's my one big worry. But did you see any of that footage?
Oh, I watched it all. I've been obsessed by watching people's reviews that have been into Galaxy's Edge. Now, I can give you some advice. The cantina, the wait in line to get in the cantina is 2 hours. That's why they first of all, it's the first place they've served alcoholic beverages in Disneyland. You could buy booze in California Adventure, but they sell booze in the cantina. It's a 2 hour wait to get in. So people have said, unless that's the thing you really want to do, don't use your 4 hours. Don't burn it up that way. And second of all, I want to build my own droid and build my own lightsaber, and that's going to cost $250 to do both. I'm in.
And by the way, Rob just mentioned something. This is the thing with it won't be this way normally, but in these early days, you got a time slot you can go in. You got 4 hours.
4 hours.
And you can be in line for 3 hours for one thing. Like, I've got to do the Millennium Falcon ride. I got to do that.
Well, that's the only one that's open.
Rise of the
Resistance hasn't opened
so
yet.
probably looking at a 3 hour wait just for that. So I'm probably gonna have to make a decision. Do I want to go to the cantina or do I want to do the Millennium Falcon thing? So because I doubt I'm going to be able to do both, which really sucks, but that's why I'm going to hang my head and go pay them the stupid amount of money, I guess. All right, let's move on here. Next one up comes to us from JB Bonifacio, who writes, I'm hoping for a Game 7 either way. I live in the Bay, so I got to rep the Warriors. Totally understandable. But Canada winning NBA is equally legitimate. Tonight will be interesting. Yeah, the reason I went to go see Godzilla last night at the press screening, because I don't go to a ton of them anymore, and I was going to go tonight and just see it at AMC Burbank 16. But game 1 of the NBA Finals is tonight, and Toronto is in the finals. So I went to go see Godzilla last night. Go Raptors, we the North. We the North. I'm actually picking the Raptors in 7. I'm picking the Raptors in 7. It's going to be a very, very tall order, but I am picking the Raptors in 7.
Never going to happen.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. They handled them pretty well in the regular season. So let's see here. Madsiv Jada writes, just saw True Lies. Why True Lies over other Cameron films? It's nothing against other Cameron films. It's just that the combination of the action, the personality of an Arnold, the comedy in it is hilarious. You got Tia Correa in there. You've got Jamie Lee Curtis in there. It is just my overall favorite James Cameron movie and my number one favorite action film of all time. It's just such a great combination of all that stuff put together. That's why, to me, it's the best of James Cameron. I know. What do you think about True Lies?
I love True Lies. I mean, it's got a riff on James Bond. It's a riff on James Bond. It's got a lot of humor. It's got very funny secondary characters. I love the relationship with Tom Arnold. And it's got, Islamic terrorists that have a nuclear bomb, which, what's not to love? And Eliza Dushku is a 12-year-old. Come on.
All right. Apex Caliber writes, Screen Rant. Endgame didn't make $3 billion. Success or failure? I know. I told you guys. I told you that if it doesn't make $3 billion, there's going to be some people somehow going to try to spend that as some kind of a negative or a letdown. Give me a break. All right. Curtis Lopez writes, someone posted a walkthrough of Galaxy's Edge on YouTube, and I think it got me pregnant. Yeah, I haven't watched that. And I'm not going to watch that stuff because I want my first real experience with it to be when my boots are on the ground. I haven't watched any of the video presentations of the Cantina or the Millennium Falcon or any of it because I want my eyes, the first time my eyes lays eyes on this stuff, I want it to be with my boots on the ground. So I'm super stoked though. All right, DC Patience writes, friend at work didn't like kids movies, just fell in love with Moana, Coco, and Spider-Verse. So proud of her for trying new things, all great movies. Look, and I would contend that none of these movies are kids movies.
Right.
I think there's a very vast distinction between kids movies like Minions, and there's nothing wrong with being a kids movie. Minions is completely aimed at kids. Movies like Moana and Coco, I've often said that Pixar does not make kid films. They make family-friendly films. They make kid-friendly films.
Yep.
But a lot of the humor in these movies are actually aimed at the parents, especially when you look at Incredibles, especially Incredibles 1. Like, most of the stuff in Incredibles 1 go right over a kid's head. Spider-Verse as well. There's a lot of mature themes in there that are for adults, but it's very kid-friendly at the same time. And I think there's a distinction there. And I'm glad your friend was able to get past that notion that anything that's animated is just for kids. Not true. There's some excellent, excellent animated stuff out there that is great for everybody. All right, The Canon writes, can you describe Nolan's directing style? I can't. Rob, to me, Nolan has a definite style that when you're watching a Nolan film, you can see his DNA in it. But I'm not sure how I would describe that off the top of my head.
You know, I think his movies I would call them studied and mannered, if that makes any sense to anyone. His films are very, I think, methodically made. They're very professorial. I mean, I like them. And I'm a huge fan. Like, I love Inception. I love The Prestige. I love Memento, and I love his Batman trilogy, even though Dark Knight Rises is a bit of a mess. I still like watching it. But they're very... That's all I could call them. Professorial, mannered, and studied. I think they really are that way. And deliberate. They're very deliberate. Everything he does is very... He is not fly by the seat of your pants. He's not Michael Bay. Let's shoot everything with 8 cameras and we'll figure it out in the edit room.
Right.
He's not that way at all. It's very methodical. And I like that about them. That's what makes them feel like Nolan movies.
I agree. All right, next up, Zach Bartran writes, one of two. I've seen Toy Story 2 so many times that I kind of hate it. And that has impeded my decision to ever watch 1 and 3, which I've gone my whole life without seeing. So my question, is there a film that you've seen so much that you kind of hate it now? And should I give 1 and 3 and 4 a fair shot despite my hatred for 2? Well, I mean, it's an interesting question, Zach, on a couple of levels. Number one, if you don't like it, I'm going to assume at some point you love the film, that you've seen it so many times. So I have to assume at some point you must have loved it, or else why were you watching it that many times? I got to say, if I love something, getting more of it doesn't impede my enjoyment of it, right? I just enjoy it all the more. I've seen Star Wars untold number of times. Look, lots of movies untold number of times. It never lessens my enjoyment of it. Like, I may see a film 10 days in a row and then go, okay, I don't feel like watching it tomorrow. But in no way, shape, or form is my enjoyment overall of the film kind of diminished. As far as should you watch 1 and 3? Look, number 3 was only one of 3 animated films in history to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. And there's a strong argument that maybe it could have won. Yeah. It is a masterpiece. Toy Story 3 is a masterpiece. Toy Story 1 is the godfather of all animated films. The current style of animated films all trace their lineage back to Toy Story 1. It is a 100% critically rated movie. Absolutely. So I gotta say, I can't relate with you on that level about watching something so much and now I hate it. I don't feel that way. I can get that way about a song that plays on the radio a million times, which is why I don't listen to the radio, and I haven't listened to the radio for like 10 years. I just listen to podcasts in my car or sports talk radio.
But is he saying that he's never seen Toy Story 1 and 3?
That's what it says. It says, impeded my decision to ever watch 1 and 3, which I've gone my whole life without seeing.
Why would you deprive yourself of such goodness?
I
mean, it's delightful. Go and get them and watch them right now.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah, don't wait.
Make your life a better life worth living.
Do not wait. So our recommendation, Zach, is absolutely watch 1 and 3. Some of the best, maybe collectively the greatest animated franchise ever, but you got to check these out.
I mean, that
They're
would be like
fantastic.
saying you've only ever watched Temple of Doom and you never watched Raiders or you never watched Last Crusade.
Yep, I agree. That's actually a great analogy.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, check him out, Zach. By all means, check him out. All right. Taki75 writes, Roger Warden, that's the guy with the mysterious Twitter account, isn't a kid that got lucky. In April, he said Marvel has plans for Zemo, and a few weeks later, we learn about him returning in Falcon and Winter Soldier. To be fair, we heard whispers in like early 2018 that Marvel may be looking. Do you remember those stories? Like those rumors were floating around back in 2018. Look, one thing does not make something credible. I'm not saying that this Roger Warden isn't credible. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that all the early tweets I put on December, all that tells me is that somebody who saw the movie. Whether they saw the movie because they snuck into a screening, whether they saw the movie because they're somebody's nephew, whatever, we don't know. So
I think, no, because I was reading more of his stuff. There was a Reddit post. I think he's affiliated somehow. And I think, by the way, he's not living up to his fiduciary agreement with the people that he's in contact with. I think what he's doing is wrong.
Oh, yeah, what he's doing is wrong. There's no doubt about it. Whoever this is, what they're doing is wrong. But how connected of a person are they? I still think that's up in the air. I'm not saying it's not one way. I'm not saying it's not the other. I'm just saying right now I still think
You
it's
just
a little
have
bit
to
up
question what is his motivation for doing this, other than getting his yayas out, which I guess that's our motivation, right, John?
Hey, don't underestimate yayas. All right, moving on here. Suthius writes, we know much about Tony, but not much about Nat. Could her movie be her funeral, if you will, ending her story in the MCU with her story we never knew? Again, I don't think her story's over. I think I fully 100% expect that Scarlett Johansson at some point in the future will be back in the MCU, one way or the other, because that's what the MCU does. I don't know about this being that, because they're suggesting it takes place in an earlier time. So I don't know. I don't know. And I'll be honest with you, I'm still not really sure how good of an idea I think it is to do a prequel solo movie on a character who just died on screen. We sort of saw that with Solo, although there was a much different situation, the fact that Scarlett Johansson is still playing the role. So I don't know. I don't know, Rob, you got a thought on that?
Like you said, I'm looking forward to Anna, which is a Luc Besson movie. Luc Besson also directed Lucy, which was goofy as heck, but Scarlett Johansson kicked ass in that movie. I want to see her come back. I love her. I think the movie's going to be huge, especially if it's a globe-trotting Bond-esque romp, which I'm hoping it is. I can't wait. And I think in a way what he's saying about being a funeral for the character, a send-off for the character, is great.
Well, let's see if that's what they're doing. All right, Willow Yang writes, which Toy Story movie is your favorite? To me, I love them all. I mean, you're just going to ruin the first two. Don't do another one. It's just a cash grab. Why are you going back to Toy Story? Finish 3 is perfectly fine at the end of 2. Why are you doing blah, blah, blah? And they made it, and it's a complete triumph. Complete triumph. So 3 is my favorite. Rob, which one would you say is your favorite?
I gotta say 1 because I was so delighted by it, and it was new and fresh, and it showed the possibilities. I mean, now we take CG animation for granted, but that was one of the first all CG animated films that was so rich, and the character designs, the performances. It's so great. Loved it.
All right, next up, The Cannon writes, your preference, Big Sick versus Birdman. Well, they're two very, very different films that you watch under two very different sets of moods.
Yeah.
But I will say, okay, fine. If I had a couple hours to kill this afternoon, I had a choice to watch one of them, I love Birdman, but I'm probably going to go with The Big Sick. Combine the facts that it's absolutely hilarious, but combined on top of that it's a true story. This guy's real life story, what happened. It's got great emotion, fantastic performances all the way around. Birdman is brilliant. It's brilliant, but I'm going to go Big Sick on that. Rob, what about you?
Got to take Birdman because from a craft angle, it's so amazing.
It's well done. It's well done. Spencer Smothers writes, check out the Nat Geo miniseries, The Hot Zone. It's about the 89 Ebola outbreak just outside of DC starring Liam Cunningham may turn you into a bit of a germaphobe. Possibly. I'll tell you what, speaking of Outbreak, though, if you want to see a movie that could turn you into a germaphobe, the movie called Outbreak, Rene Russo, Dustin Hoffman, I want to say, who's the guy from Jerry Maguire? Show Me the Money.
Cuba Gooding
I think
Jr.
Cuba Gooding
He's
Jr.
in it, and so is
Can't Buy Me Love Boy.
No, but
Patrick Dempsey. I think Patrick Dempsey's in it.
Yes, he's in it, and so is Jack Bauer's dad, Donald Sutherland. He plays the general.
Oh, that's right. He plays the general in that. That's right.
But you know what? The Hot Zone is based on a book by Richard Preston, and they were getting made at the same time that Hot Zone didn't get made. Ridley Scott was going to direct it. That book gives me the heebie-jeebies. I can't wait to see the miniseries.
All right, I'm going to have to check that out. All right, next one up. ZOMG Ruler writes, thoughts on those who say Man of Steel has no or muted color? Well, they're not wrong. The colors in Man of Steel are muted. Zack Snyder made it a creative decision to go with a certain color palette, a color palette that we've seen some other movies use. I don't think it bettered or decreased my enjoyment of the movie. My brain and eyes just got adjusted to this is the color palette of the movie. But people who point that out aren't wrong. It is a muted color palette movie. It's just a fact. That's what it is. Now, whether that's good or bad or positive or negative, that's up to the individual to decide. To me, it didn't really impact me one way or the other. But it is true. Rob, was it noticeable to you like there was a muted color palette?
Yeah, but that was a choice.
Yeah.
That like you're watching a film that it didn't look like the Christopher Reeve 78 Superman when he shows up in the suit. But that's okay.
All right. Next one up comes to us from Pixar Fanification, who writes, the closest drive-in to me is having a Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody double feature this week. I can't wait. One of the great advantages of the drive-in cinemas, if they can come up with these really creative, very fitting double features, that's awesome. I got to get back enjoy drive-ins while you can, guys, because they're not going to be around for much longer, unfortunately. But that sounds like a great time at the theaters tonight, Fanification. Enjoy yourself, because that sounds awesome. All right, Tyler Van writes, do you think Office became bad after Michael left? Yes, but it got better again. The big problem with The Office, I've said this all the time, was Michael left. The character, I keep forgetting what Ed Helms' character's name was in the show, but Andy was the character's name. That's what it was. The character Andy, it made absolutely, if you followed the show, it made zero sense that Andy would be made the new manager of The Office. It made zero sense. This is a guy that got suspended from work because of anger management and lots of different problems, was one of their worst salespeople in the show, blah, blah. It would make no sense to make that character the new focal point of the show. The issue was, this was shortly after The Hangover became a big hit. And it's like, well, Ed Helms is a big star now. Let's revolve the show around him. Instead of what was doing organic for the show, they decided, oh, Ed Helms is popular now because he's in a big popular movie. Let's make him the center of the show. And the show suffered. It was very quickly they realized that wasn't working, and they kind of pulled back on that and started to put a little bit more of the focus on Dwight, a little bit more focus on Jim and Pam, like that. And the show started to get pretty good again. I honestly thought the show started to get pretty good again. Although never to the super heights that it was at during the Michael Scott era. But yeah, it became bad after he left. They found their footing, started to get back again. So anyway, that's just kind of how I saw The Office. Sorry, that was a long way to answer a short question. All right, Suthius writes, or it could take place, I don't know what you're talking about, Suthius, sorry. Yeah. Hey guys, listen, if you're going to write in continuations, don't just assume we will remember exactly what it was you said 25 comments ago. I'm going to try those through this. Or it could take place in the 5-year time skip. We'll see Nat working with some of the team who's off planet, could set up seeds for upcoming phases. Well, you know, Rob and I talked about that I actually love the idea of the movie taking place during that 5-year gap between Infinity War and Endgame. But from what I hear, it's actually going to take place before that, Rob. Have you heard anything on that?
No, I mean, I really don't know much about this movie, other than the fact I heard once it was going to be a prequel. I mean, even if it takes place in the 5-year gap, that means
that's
it's a prequel.
Technically a prequel, yeah.
Prequel, you know, so it doesn't, I don't know.
She did, so it can't be a sequel.
I mean, I would really like to see her in her element. You know, I really love the beginning of Winter Soldier when she and Captain America infiltrate that ship and they're kind of fighting. They're working together to commandeer that ship to take the hostage situation. But I'd love to see her unleashed on her own. What did she do as an agent traveling around the world? Show me. I want to see, and we're going to see. I can't wait.
Hey, listen, guys, we're going to take a quick break from the live questions because I asked you guys a little bit earlier in the show if you had any thoughts or opinions on any of the topics we were talking about here today, and if so, fire them out on Twitter. And a bunch of you did fire them out on Twitter, so let's go over and take a look at what you guys were talking about on Twitter. All right, Kevin Rubio, our friend, wrote, I was recently talking to a friend of mine who is a Muppeteer, and they said the Dark Crystal is the best thing they have ever worked on. God, I cannot believe how excited I am for this Dark Crystal thing. All right, next up, Paulina writes, no Toy Story tickets were on sale until you just mentioned it. Just purchased them. There you go. Would have added to the record right there, Paulina. All right, Dufea writes, I liked Vanessa Hudgens, but my pick for Catwoman is Rebecca Ferguson. I think she would be perfect. Well, you can't really say that because you have no idea what kind of, even if Catwoman's in the movie, you have no idea what kind of Catwoman she's being written as, what the character's like at all.
That's a good call, though.
So you can't, I mean, she's great, but she's great in anything. That's the thing. Kaysen Rogers writes, the reason people started sending those pictures to Vanessa Hudgens is because of a rumor that was going around that she was cast in the role. Yeah, I did hear that rumor. I don't think there's anything to it, nor do I think there's anything to the Josh Gad thing either. DC Patience writes in, actors should absolutely advocate and campaign for themselves. You're always your own best advocate and can't just sit back and wait for good things to happen. Yes, I just think they need to happen behind the scenes. I don't think you play these out on the public stage because I think you might actually be, that might be counterproductive. You might be hurting your chances if you do that. And DB World Survivalist writes, a version of Weapon X as a Black Ops team to do things even the Avengers won't do is a good way to introduce mutants. Yeah, there's more than, as they often say in these things, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And maybe, I mean, just maybe, something like that would be a different approach as opposed to two of the more standard ones that we were thinking about. Okay, with that down, let's get back to your live questions, guys. We still got about 15 minutes left here in the show. Let's see here. Christopher Benson writes, over under 30% that Aladdin in its second weekend beats Godzilla opening weekend. After seeing Godzilla last night, I think there's a possibility it will. Well, you got to remember, not the long weekend, but proper weekend, I think Aladdin made somewhere around $85 million. They're projecting Godzilla's going to come in at 55. For Aladdin to beat that, that means it needs to take like a 40% drop only. I don't see that. There is good word of mouth for Aladdin. I do think Godzilla is going to end up being the number one film at the box office this weekend, though. It's just going to make too much for Aladdin to overcome. So, I don't know, Rob, do you think there's a possibility Aladdin could be number one at the box office?
I don't know. I probably not, but I mean, there's a lot of good word of mouth with Aladdin. People really like it, and if it has a lot of repeat business, you never know.
It's true. It's true. All right, let's move on here. Suthius writes, over under 70% that Frozen 2 will have its own Let It Go, a song that could be the next worldwide phenomenon from the upcoming movie. Well, look, I can tell you it's 100% they're going to have a song in there they hope will be the next Let It Go, but every musical movie that has songs in it are hoping their song is the next Let It Go. You know, Aladdin's got Speechless. Although I love the song in the movie, I don't see that taking off and becoming the next Let It Go. So 100% they're going to try, but that song just became a worldwide phenomenon. And I don't think they'll try. I don't think they're going to get the same kind of success that that one had. So I'm going to go under 70% that they're actually able to do it. Rob, what do you think?
They're going to try.
Yeah.
But you know, don't count them out. They might come up with something that's toe tapping.
But 70%, over or under 70% that they'll accomplish it.
You know what? I'm going to say over.
Over 70%.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what's the metric we measure? I don't know.
I think y'all are crazy though. All right. Murray Reich writes, it's interesting that Galaxy's Edge in Florida opens up way later than the one in California, like August 29th, where it's already the end of the summer before school starts. Yeah, I think, I don't know if that was on purpose or it's just that they realized that they were going to be finished the one in California a lot sooner, so why wait to open it? I don't really think it matters one way or the other, so I think it's going to be fine either way. Fried Cheese Macaroon Ball, great name, writes, favorite movie, snack, and drink? Oh, that's easy. Popcorn soda. I'm straightforward, absolutely as vanilla as it comes. Popcorn and soda. That's me. Rob, you got to go too?
Popcorn soda, but you don't really see them anymore. But my favorite movie candy of all time, hot tamales.
Ooh. Yeah, I had friends who used to like to get that stuff. I never did myself. But anyway. I think Ann likes those too. I'm Upset writes, worst Martin Lawrence film. I was going to say Black Knight. Black Knight was the one I was immediately going to go to.
Yeah.
Black Knight. Oof. Rob, you got a different one?
I can't even think of a worse one. Is
there
one?
Grandma's House? Or whatever. That was pretty bad, but I got to go Black Knight. I got to stick with Black Knight on that. DC Patience writes, do you plan to still buy Disney movies since they'll all be on Disney Plus? Debating on waiting to buy Captain Marvel since I'll get it on streaming anyway. It's funny you asked that. Me and Ann actually talked about that because I had the Google Plus open, or I had the Google Play Store open, and I was getting ready to purchase Captain Marvel, and then Ann and I started talking, well, wait a minute. It's going to be available pretty soon on a service we're going to get, and I passed. I might have to get Endgame, even though, because Endgame's going to be coming out before Disney Plus starts, because I just won't be able to wait another month or two to watch it again on Disney Plus. But I might even take a pass on Endgame because I know they're coming out. So it's a good question. I'll probably wait. But Rob, I know what you're going to say because you like buying the physical media stuff, and especially now it's important to get physical media because you might not be available for much longer.
Right. I mean, look, I to be honest, I pre-ordered both the Steelbook for Captain Marvel and for Endgame at Best Buy, the 4K versions, and I'll buy them. But look, even I see the writing on the wall, and I think physical media.
You got to speak up, dude. Speak up.
In 5 years, I'm not going to. I don't see. I'm not going to buy physical media in 4 years, 5 years. I don't think.
All right, so yeah, I'm probably going to wait for Disney Plus. All right, Kuzi Arnott writes, does the newly released Fox films get added to Disney's box office count for the whole year's total count, as Box Office Mojo still has it separate? What I'm not sure about here is this. Fox was not only a production company. Fox is also a major distribution arm. Mm-hmm. How Disney is going to handle that, I'm not really sure, because everything comes out under Disney. Everything comes out under their Buena Vista distribution arm. That's why when you look on Box Office Mojo, when it says what studio was, it always says BV, and a lot that confuses some people. That's just their distribution arm. I think they might actually keep their Fox distribution company in place, and if so, then no, it's not going to be counted properly under Disney, but we're all going to know it's a Disney film anyway because it's owned by Disney, much like we count Pixar, we count theirs towards Disney. Marvel, we count towards Disney. Star Wars, we count towards Disney. But Fox is unique in that it has its own distribution. I think they're keeping it. Rob, do you know anything about that?
I don't, but I'm sure it'll be phased out eventually, but I could see Fox is still going to count towards, like X-Men Dark Phoenix is clearly a 20th Century Fox movie. So I don't think it's going to be counted toward Disney's year-end box office take.
All right, let's move on here. Dario JL writes, Mortal Kombat and Masters of the Universe released on March 5th, 2021. Now that is something, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I want to see both of these, but they've been talking so much about both of these properties for so long. Talk to me in December of 2020. That's when I'll start to get excited about it. Because right now, I all I'm saying is I'll believe it when I see it. That's just all I'm saying right now. All right, Catherine Head writes, good morning, all. Good morning, Catherine. My husband sent in a message yesterday for our anniversary. Oh, that's right, he did. That was great, by the way. And I wanted to let Rob know that I agreed to another 10 years. Justin, I'd spend another 1,000 years with you if I could.
Oh man, you're melting my heart. Melting my heart.
Giving me a
congratulations,
here.
you two crazy lovebirds.
Yeah, you're giving me a cavity. That is awesome.
And by the way,
sweet.
I didn't mean to dismiss your love. I didn't. I was just making a joke because he said, "Will you?" He was asking for another 10 years, so I figured, there's that old Star Trek episode 11001001 for the first season of Next Generation with the Binars, and they say, well, why did you ask the question? We would have helped you, and they said, well, you could have said no because they only understood yes or no. So
that's right, zeros and ones, but that is awesome. Thanks for jumping on and mentioning that. This is sweet stuff that happens around here. So thanks for that, Catherine. All right, Matt Phillips Reviews writes, in Endgame, Banner said the gauntlet contained gamma radiation. Could the 3 snaps and massive radiation lead to the creation of mutants? I mean, that's been a theory that's been around for an awful long time. Everybody's been speculating. Could the snaps create mutation. It's possible. The problem is if you do that, you're throwing away all the history of the X-Men. And you're saying that X-Men just starts now, and all the rich history and mythology about the allegory of what X-Men is, about the civil rights movement, and all that kind of stuff, a history of the years of Charles Xavier Magneto with two different philosophies working throughout the years and developing, blah, blah, blah. So you can, it's just, you got to understand, then you have to accept the drawback that you're throwing away a lot of history. And maybe that's the best way to do it. Maybe that's what they need to do at this point, perhaps. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But it's certainly a popular theory, Matt. A lot of people have been speculating that. Chris Feldman writes, did you ever see 0 Hour, the 1957 movie that Airplane is based on? Some scenes and dialogue are nearly the same in both movies. I have not. I've heard about it. Rob, have you seen it?
Oh, I have.
How is it?
You can't, if you go back and you try and watch 0 Hour now and you know Airplane, it's impossible to watch. It really is. But it's absolutely clear where they took it from. And by the way, they never denied that. From the very beginning, Zaz, Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker always maintained that 0 Hour they were taking it from that movie.
All right, Adam Martinez writes, watching Chernobyl, it's freaking brilliant, dude. It's so good. It is awe-inspiring television. I am so wrapped up in it. Like every second that it's on, I'm like tense and sad and hopeful, and like I just can't believe that there are people that talented that can make something like this. And I'm fully on board.
And
with
you're
Chernobyl.
hoping you want Emily Watson to uncover everything. You know, it's like you want these characters to succeed so badly.
Okay, let's move on here. Johnny Miha writes, sorry, John, but your Raptors are going down tonight. Maybe. I mean, these are two great teams. Normally, I would say, hey, Golden State's going to walk. But the thing is, I watched them play in the regular season. Toronto matches up with them very well. Golden State is the better team. There's no doubt. But sometimes it's about matchups. And how do those matchups work? And I'm just telling you, I wouldn't put money on the series. Let's just put it that way. I wouldn't put money on the series one way or the other. Carlos Herrera writes, Endgame should have had a scene for Natasha in Soul World after Hulk snaps to close up their arc and say their goodbyes. Love the show and Team John. Well, thanks so much, Carlos. But here's the thing. There's a misconception here that Soul World is an actual place where these characters actually went. They didn't. The Russo brothers specifically said in the director's commentary of Infinity War, because a lot of people think that, after the snap, Thanos actually talks to Gamora in the Soul World. It wasn't Gamora. The Russo brothers specifically said it was a vision of Gamora. It wasn't actually her. It was a vision of Gamora. And so they could have done something like that, but it wouldn't have been real anyway. And if it's not real, does it really give us that closure? They were thinking about having a grown version of Tony's daughter there and having him see a vision of his grown daughter to tell him, I'm going to be okay, sort of thing. But they leaned away from that as well. And I thought it was probably a good decision that they did. But I just, when I'm watching the ending and they're doing this beautiful, moving funeral ceremony for Tony Stark, I did have a hard time going, why? Nothing for Nat, huh? Nothing for Black Widow. I guess she wasn't rich enough. I don't know. It was just kind of there for me. But I hope they give us some sort of closure. I hope whatever kind of prequel it is, there's some sort of flash forward to show us some of the Avengers characters talking about Natalie near the end of the movie. How about that? I don't know. Some kind of closure would be great. All right, Phoenix Arising writes, I know you don't like casting questions, so I won't ask. Jeremy Renner as the new Wolverine, just saying, LOL, may the filthy be with you. Yeah, so what Phoenix is talking about is I don't like questions that are like, what about X actor in X role? Because the answer is, as long as X actor is a talented actor, I don't care. Just make it a talented actor. Because beyond that, haven't read the script. I don't know what type of that character they're going for. So you can't possibly say who would be great for that role. So that's why I just go, as long as it's a good actor, I'm totally good. Jeremy Renner is one hell of an actor. But he's already in the MCU, so you can't do that. Let's see. Jeff Crow writes, today is my best friend's Maddie's birthday, and I'm taking her to Galaxy's Edge in 30 days to celebrate. So excited. Lucky her. I'm going to go see it in about 2 weeks. I'll let you guys know if it's any good, but that is a hell of a birthday present, Jeff. So a happy early birthday to Maddie. Enjoy Galaxy's Edge. All right, Darth Impact sends in a really big super chat. Thank you, Darth, for supporting us that way. If Terminator Dark Fate is a huge hit, Disney's saying they're still making Alien movies. Covenant not doing well. The trend of retconning movies like the former. Could we see Trank's version of Alien sooner or later? First of all, there is no Trank version of it. I think you're probably thinking of Neil Blomkamp. Because I think it was Neil Blomkamp who has a version. So Josh Trank, that's a different director altogether. I don't think so. Now, Josh Trank, I just did it. Neil Blomkamp was working on an Alien proposal. He put out sketches of it, all this kind of stuff. Sigourney Weaver said she loved the idea, blah, blah, blah. Now, the word on the street is it got shut down because one of the greatest directors of all time, Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott ex-nayed it, said no. Because he had movies he wanted to do. So that kind of killed Neil Blomkamp. I'm not sure they would have moved ahead with it anyway. And I don't know that Disney's first order of business, if they want to do more Aliens films, is to go back to something that got rejected. I don't know that that's their first step. I think their first step is do something that they originate and that they start. So I don't know, Rob, do you think there's a possibility they could go back to something like that? What do you think?
Well, I just looked up just because of my own edification. Alien Covenant grossed $240 million worldwide.
Not great.
Not great. Didn't do well, even for the Prometheus grossed like almost twice that. But I think, look, if you think about the Alien franchise and you go back, we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Alien. May 25th was when it was released 40 years ago. The first Alien was not a huge budget movie. And I think the Alien franchise, if you strip it down and turn it into something that's more akin to the first film, you might have something really interesting. And it doesn't have to be hugely expensive. But I think that they're going to be looking towards broadening the Alien franchise. I'd love to see it come back. I want to see Ridley Scott make his final bonkers David, Alien, Android, whatever thing. I'd like to see the trilogy of Prometheus, Alien Covenant, whatever finished. But I don't know if that'll ever happen.
All right, let's move on here. We're almost out of time. Isaac Beebe writes, I just saw Freddy got fingered. I didn't know eyes could bleed. Now I do. Yeah, that's a pretty good Canadian kid, Tom Green. Good Canadian kid. His studio was actually, we were in the same building together. His studio was right across the hall from mine. Really nice guy. I had a chance to hang out and talk with him on a number of occasions. Really nice guy. That's a horrible movie. And I think that's one he would take back if he could. Good Canadian kid again. Check the OR. You like me so far? Kudos to you if you know what that's a reference to. But yeah, wow, Isaac.
Yeesh, dude.
You've seen it, Rob?
Oh, yeesh, yes.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? It's like, even in the trailers, I'm like, that's not funny. Come on, and Tom Green's hilarious. I love Tom Green. But yeah, I'm sure he would take that one back if he could. All right, Andy Brake sends in a really large super chat. Thank you for that, Andy. Andy writes, although I love Solo, however, had it been a film exploring the criminal underworld, featuring characters like Han, Chewie, and Lando, rather than a Solo origin film, different title and all, it may have made for more success. I disagree completely. They made a good movie, and it doesn't matter what concept you put there. If you don't execute it, it doesn't mean anything. They had a concept. I thought Ron Howard executed it really well, made a fun, enjoyable space science fiction movie, but you still would have had the same problem as before. A Han Solo movie without Han Solo, without Harrison Ford. And that ultimately would have been the same thing. Solo was a really good movie. It had the success that it had. I mean, it is what it is. And I really don't think changing concepts would have done anything unless the concept change was a total change and that it was no longer a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford, which I think was the biggest problem. But I don't know, Rob, do you think like a switch of concept would have made much of a difference?
No, I think no, I don't. Although that movie sounds interesting, but I don't think it would have helped Solo at all.
Yeah, the movie does sound different. And there was talk for a long time about them doing a show like that. They were even developing something like that
for a long time.
I keep forgetting what the name was. I knew there was a name to it attached that we all knew. But anyway, and it never actually came about. And that could have been interesting. But as long as it was a Han Solo movie with somebody else other than Harrison Ford playing it, they did that and made a good movie, and it still lost money. And I think the same thing would have happened even if you had attached just a different concept to it. Doesn't matter. It still would have been the same results, I think. All right, guys, we have run out of time. But what I'm going to do is Some people have sent in some fairly large super chats, and I want to make sure those get answered here in the live show. So what I'm going to go do now is we're going to go through and answer those ones that have been sent in. For everybody else who has sent in a super chat, Darth Impact, Jamie Tarrant, and all the way down, don't worry, I'm going to do a companion video later today, and all the questions you have sent in will be answered today in a video. Keep your eyes open for that. Normally, I would try to just get through all of them today, but I got a doctor's appointment later, so I don't have all the time in the world today. Okay, so next up comes to us from, here's one, Franklin Donahue, who writes, "Hey John, remember Cold Mountain?" I do remember Cold Mountain. I was surprised how funny and upbeat it was in some parts, while I still realistically portraying the Civil War. Looked up the director, but he has since died. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yep, Anthony Minghella.
I did not realize that. What did you think of Cold Mountain, Rob?
I like Cold Mountain. I was a big fan of his. He directed The English Patient, which I adore, and he also directed The Talented Mr. Ripley. And his son Max Minghella was in, of course, The Social Network.
Oh, who did he play?
He was the friend of the Winklevoss, the Winkleby.
That's right. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, it's a movie that
he's
came
in Handmaid's Tale. The show.
He's the chauffeur dude.
Yeah.
That's right. By the way, guys, if you haven't watched Handmaid's Tale, the hype's real. It's a really good show. Cold Mountain was one that actually got really overlooked and stuff. And you're right. It does have, because the marketing did not make it look like there was levity in it, but there is more levity in it than you might think. It's a nice call out, Franklin. Good call on that one. All right, next, Josh Sumsian writes, "Hey John and Rob, thank you so much for being the best part of my mornings." Well, thank you for letting us be a part of your morning, Josh. You've convinced me to give so many shows and movies a chance that had horrible trailers or word of mouth initially. Honestly, one of my favorite things as an entertainment fan, particular movies and sometimes television, is seeing something that I thought looked terrible and having it end up being something really enjoyable. That is one of the best feelings as a film fan. And then what's even better is being able to pass that on to people who then they get to have that experience as well. It's something that I love, Robert. I know that's something you get a kick out of as well.
Absolutely. It's fantastic when people get to see things that they might not see because of us.
Yeah.
Like Godzilla.
like Godzilla. Go see, half the critics like it. You may like it too. Give it a chance. Give it a chance. Maybe you'll feel like Rob. Maybe you'll feel like me. Who knows? But give it a chance. Right. Nosferatu writes, "I love Shuri, but considering the fact that she is a human being compared to millions of alien species with advanced tech, how is she the smartest in the MCU? I'm probably nitpicking. I think when they say smartest in the MCU, I think probably meant of their existing characters. I don't think they were ever suggesting that Shuri is the most intelligent being in all of the galaxy.
Right.
But the MCU is a finite number of characters that we know and have met and are introduced to and are part of our in and out daily pantheon of the universe. I don't think they ever were trying to suggest that she's the smartest being in the galaxy. Like, she's not smarter than, well, a lot of people.
She's getting her own hot toy, though.
Oh, is she?
Yes, she is.
God,
I pre-ordered that goodness.
Of course you did.
Although Sideshow just sent me a notice saying that the Wakandan throne has been delayed, and you know how much I like my seats.
You like your chairs.
I like my chairs.
You like your chairs. All right. I would love to see one of M'Baku with his throne.
That would be badass. They have not announced that figure, but that would be badass.
Yeah, I'd be down for that one completely. Okay, where are we at here? That was Nosferatu. And the final one today that we have to do comes to us from Edgar Romero, who writes, "It was posted today, the Netflix show The Witcher, starring Henry Cavill, finished filming today. So over under 40%, we get a trailer at San Diego Comic-Con. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint me as a fan of the book/games. Thanks." Ooh, I did not hear that news. I think if they're done if they're done principal photography, and it's almost 2 months until Comic-Con, I don't see how you don't do some kind of presentation there. I'll take the way over 40 on that, Edgard. I'll take way over 40%. And oh my God, he just put a little bit of a skip in my step today. Let me know about that, because I had not heard that news. I'm going to say over 40. As a matter of fact, I'll go like 85. I'll go 85. I'm going to go to Comic-Con actually expecting that we're going to see something from The Witcher. What do you think, Rob?
100%. I will go 100% that there is going to be a Witcher presentation at Comic-Con.
All right, well, there you have it, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Again, we didn't have a chance to get through all of them. I'm trying to get through all of them every day now, but we just ran a little bit out of time today. But again, for all of you guys who didn't have your questions answered, don't worry. Companion video coming later today. Your questions are going to properly get answered in a video a little bit later. Keep your eyes open for that. I want to thank, of course, my co-host today, the one and the only, the wonderful Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you and your Godzilla-loving ass?
Well, you can find and that's America's ass.
That's
by the way.
America's ass.
Godzilla-loving ass. You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, theburnettwork.net, or its adjacent website. Pardon me. The website's theburnettwork.net. The YouTube channel is just the Burnett Work.
There you go. And you guys can, of course, follow me just on social media, simply at John Campea. Hey, guys, listen, while you're here, why don't you take a second, click the subscribe button, become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel, stay up to date on everything we got going on here. If you enjoyed the conversation, whether you agreed or disagreed with our opinions, if you enjoyed the conversation, click the thumbs up button on that video. It always helps the channel out a lot. And don't forget, the John Campea Show will be back again tomorrow morning. Make sure you come back and join me then. I'm going to let you guys know, for those of you who are regulars around here, normally we do open mics on Saturday and Sunday. There will not be an open mic on Saturday. I'm actually traveling to Las Vegas tomorrow night to go and play in the World Series of Poker, which is something I like to do every year. So I'm going to be in Vegas on Saturday playing in that, and so there won't be an open mic then, but I will be doing an open mic on Sunday, so keep your eyes open for that. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this thing. Love being a part of the film fan community with you guys. Thanks a lot, and until next time, my name's John Campea. Bye-bye.